The elevator doors opened on the 63rd floor, and 5-year-old Lily Brooks pointed directly at the most powerful woman in the building. "Mommy!" The words stopped every conversation. 20 executives froze, security guards turned, and billionaire CEO Evelyn Cross, a woman who commanded boardrooms and broke corporate rivals before breakfast, stood completely still as a child in worn sneakers ran toward her with arms outstretched. The girl's father, Daniel Brooks, wore a maintenance uniform with his name stitched above the pocket. His face drained of color as he lunged forward, catching his daughter mid-stride. "Lily, no!" But the damage was done. Every eye in that elevator had seen it. Every whisper would follow. And Evelyn Cross, whose expression never changed during hostile takeovers or shareholder revolts, looked at the maintenance worker holding his daughter and asked the question that would unravel everything. "Why does your daughter call me that?" If you want to know how a billionaire CEO and a widowed janitor's lives became impossibly tangled in the darkness of a corporate tower, stay with me until the end. Hit that like button and drop a comment telling me what city you're watching from. I want to see how far this story travels. The question hung in the air between them like shattered glass, sharp and impossible to ignore. Daniel Brooks stood in the marble lobby of Cross Industries headquarters. His daughter pressed against his chest, her small hands clutching the front of his gray maintenance uniform. Around them, the Monday morning rush continued. Executives in tailored suits, assistants balancing coffee and tablets, the constant ping of elevator arrivals. But in that moment, the world had narrowed to just 3 people: Evelyn Cross, Daniel Brooks, and the 5-year-old girl who had just called a billionaire stranger Mommy. "I'm sorry," Daniel managed, his voice rough. "She didn't mean, it's not what you think." Evelyn's expression remained unreadable, the same carefully controlled mask she wore in every business meeting, every press conference, every moment of her meticulously constructed life. At 42, she was striking rather than beautiful. Sharp cheekbones, steel gray eyes, dark hair pulled back so severely it looked painful. She wore a charcoal suit that probably cost more than Daniel made in 3 months, and her heels clicked against the marble with the precision of a metronome. "Then what is it?" Her voice was quiet, but it carried. Around them, people slowed, pretending not to listen while hanging on every word. "Explain it to me." Daniel's jaw tightened. Is there somewhere private?" "My office, 63rd floor." She turned to her assistant, a nervous young woman hovering 3 steps behind. "Clear my 9 o'clock. Hold all calls." "Ms. Cross, you have the Meridian board meeting in 40 minutes. I said hold all calls, Rachel." The assistant nodded quickly and retreated, already typing frantically on her phone. Evelyn looked at Daniel again, her gaze dropping briefly to Lily, who had buried her face in her father's shoulder. Something flickered in those gray eyes, something that might have been pain or memory or both, but it vanished before Daniel could name it. "Come with me." She didn't wait for an answer, just turned and walked toward the private executive elevator, the one with the brushed steel doors and the keycard reader that only senior leadership could access. Daniel hesitated, his arms tightening around Lily. "Daddy?" Lily whispered against his neck. "Are we in trouble?" He closed his eyes briefly. "No, baby, we're okay." But he didn't believe it, not for a second. The executive elevator was eerily quiet compared to the regular ones. No music, no announcements, just the soft hum of machinery and the uncomfortable silence between 3 people who shouldn't exist in the same space. Daniel stood against the back wall, Lily still in his arms, while Evelyn faced forward, her posture perfect, her hands clasped in front of her. The numbers climbed. 30, 40, 50. "How old is she?" Evelyn asked without turning around. 5. "What's her name?" "Lily." A pause. The elevator climbed higher. "And you work nights, maintenance." "Yes, ma'am." "Don't call me ma'am. Ms. Cross is fine." She still didn't turn. "How long have you worked here?" 8 months. "And you bring your daughter to work at night?" It wasn't a question, but Daniel answered anyway. "Childcare fell through. I didn't have a choice." "Everyone has choices, Mr. Brooks." His hands tightened around Lily. "Not everyone has good ones." The elevator chimed softly as they reached the 63rd floor. The doors opened onto a space that looked nothing like the utilitarian hallways Daniel knew from his night shifts. This was executive territory, floor-to-ceiling windows, abstract art on cream-colored walls, furniture that looked too expensive to sit on. A receptionist's desk sat empty. It was barely 8:30, too early for the support staff who served the executive floor. Evelyn led them past the empty desk, through a set of glass doors, and into an office that took up the entire corner of the building. Two walls were nothing but windows, offering a panoramic view of the city stretching toward the harbor. The furniture was minimalist, a massive desk, two chairs facing it, a low couch along one wall. Everything was white, black, or chrome. No photographs. No personal items. Nothing that suggested a human being actually worked here. Sit. Evelyn gestured to one of the chairs facing her desk. Daniel sat carefully, settling Lily on his lap. She was being unusually quiet, her thumb in her mouth, a habit she'd mostly broken but returned to when she was scared or uncertain. He could feel her heart beating fast against his chest. Evelyn moved around her desk but didn't sit. Instead, she stood with her back to the windows, the morning light turning her into a silhouette, her expression shadowed. "Now," she said quietly, "tell me why your daughter thinks I'm her mother." Daniel took a breath. "She doesn't think that. Not really." "Then what was that in the elevator?" "A mistake. A child's mistake." He shifted Lily slightly, trying to find words that would make sense of something he barely understood himself. Her mother died when she was 3. She doesn't remember her very well, and sometimes when she sees someone who... He stopped, searching for the right way to say it. Someone who what? Someone who looks at her the way mothers do, I guess. With kindness. With attention. He met Evelyn's eyes, even though he couldn't see them clearly against the light. "She's just a little girl who wants a mom, that's all." "And she chose me." Evelyn's voice was flat. "A woman she's never met." "That's not true." The words came out before Daniel could stop them. Evelyn went very still. "Explain that, immediately." Daniel's throat felt tight. "She's met you before, several times. Late at night, when I'm working." "I don't work late at night." "You do, actually. 2-3 times a week. I've seen you up here at 2-3 in the morning." He paused. "And so has Lily." The silence stretched out, broken only by the faint sound of traffic from 63 floors below. When Evelyn finally spoke, her voice was different, quieter, more uncertain. "The basement. There's a storage room in the basement that someone's been using. I've seen the blankets, the children's books." Daniel's jaw tightened. "It's just during my shifts. She sleeps. She's not bothering anyone." "That's against company policy." "I know. It's a liability issue." "I know. You could be fired." "I know." He looked down at Lily, who had fallen asleep against his chest, exhausted from the emotion of the morning. "But I couldn't leave her alone, and I couldn't afford to quit. So I made it work." Evelyn finally moved, walking around the desk and sitting in her chair. Without the backlight, Daniel could see her face clearly now. She looked tired, not just physically, but the kind of tired that went bone deep, that came from carrying weight for too long. "Tell me what happened," she said. "All of it. From the beginning." So he did. Make it. Daniel Brooks had never planned to be a single father working the night shift in a corporate tower. 3 years ago, he'd been an assistant manager at a manufacturing plant in the suburbs, married to his high school sweetheart, living in a small house with a yard where his daughter could play. Life had been simple. Good. Safe. Then Sarah got sick. The diagnosis came fast. Aggressive, they'd said. Already stage 4. She'd been feeling tired for months, but they'd both assumed it was just the stress of raising a toddler, the sleepless nights, the endless routine of young parenthood. By the time they found the cancer, it had spread too far for treatment to do more than buy time. 6 months. That's all they got. 6 months of hospital rooms and experimental treatments and trying to explain to a 3-year-old why mommy was getting thinner, why her hair was falling out, why she couldn't pick Lily up anymore. Sarah died on a Tuesday morning in March. Lily had been at preschool. Daniel picked her up that afternoon and told her that mommy had gone to sleep and wouldn't wake up. Lily had nodded solemnly, her small face serious, and asked if they could have macaroni and cheese for dinner. She'd been too young to understand, and maybe that was a mercy. The medical bills came later, mountains of them. Even with insurance, the costs were staggering. The house went first, sold for less than they'd paid for it, every penny going to pay down debt. Then the car. Then everything else that had any value. Daniel and Lily moved into a one-bedroom apartment in a neighborhood where sirens were the soundtrack of sleep. He took any job he could find, 2, sometimes 3 at once, but nothing paid enough to cover the bills and keep Lily in decent childcare. 8 months ago, he'd found the listing for night maintenance at Cross Industries. The pay was better than his other jobs, and the hours were 10 p.m. to 6 a.m., when Lily should be sleeping anyway. He'd applied, interviewed, and started the following week. The first month, he'd paid for overnight childcare at a place that charged by the hour. But the costs added up fast, and the quality was questionable. He'd arrived one morning to find Lily sitting alone in a room with a television, no adult in sight. That's when he'd started bringing her with him. The basement storage room had been his solution. It was warm, quiet, tucked away from the main corridors where his supervisors walked their rounds. He'd brought blankets, pillows, a small lamp. Lily slept while he cleaned offices, emptied trash, vacuumed conference rooms, scrubbed bathrooms. He checked on her every 30 minutes, sometimes more. It wasn't ideal. It wasn't safe, probably. But it was the best he could do. He'd thought they were invisible. The night shift crew was small, and most of them minded their own business. The building at night was a different world, quiet, empty, vast. He cleaned 63 floors of offices and never saw anyone except other maintenance workers and the occasional security guard, until he saw her. It was around 2 in the morning, 3 months ago. Daniel had just finished cleaning the 58th floor and was heading to the elevator when he heard it, a child's voice, high and frightened, echoing down the empty hallway. "Daddy!" He ran, full sprint, heart in his throat, taking the stairs 3 at a time down to the basement. He burst into the storage room to find Lily sitting up in her makeshift bed, crying, her small body shaking. "Baby, what's wrong? What happened?" "Someone was here," she sobbed. "A lady. She looked at me." Daniel's blood ran cold. "What lady? Where?" Lily pointed to the doorway. "She was there. She didn't say anything. She just looked." He checked the hallway, but it was empty. No sounds except the hum of HVAC systems and distant traffic. Whoever had been there was gone. "Are you sure?" he asked, crouching next to Lily. "Maybe you had a bad dream." "No, she was real. She had dark hair and she was wearing black and she looked sad." Lily's chin trembled. "Why was she sad, Daddy?" Daniel had no answer for that. He held his daughter until she calmed down, then sat with her until she fell back asleep. The rest of the night, he kept the storage room door cracked open so he could see down the hallway while he worked. The next night, at exactly 2:15, he saw her. Evelyn Cross walked down the basement corridor like a ghost, silent, solitary, her face pale in the fluorescent lighting. She wore a black coat over what looked like workout clothes, and her hair hung loose around her shoulders instead of pulled back in its usual severe style. She looked smaller somehow, less imposing, more human. She didn't seem to see him. She walked past the storage room without glancing inside, continued down the corridor, and disappeared around the corner toward the emergency stairs. Daniel stood frozen in the hallway, mop in hand, trying to process what he'd just seen. The CEO of Cross Industries, wandering the basement at 2 in the morning. It made no sense, but it happened again and again. 2, sometimes 3 nights a week, always between 2 and 3 a.m., Evelyn Cross would appear in the basement. She never spoke to anyone, never acknowledged Daniel or the other night workers. She just walked, sometimes for 10 minutes, sometimes for an hour, pacing the empty corridors like she was searching for something she couldn't name. And sometimes, not always, but sometimes, she would pause outside the storage room where Lily slept. She never went inside, never spoke, just stood in the doorway for a minute or two, her expression unreadable, before continuing her restless patrol. Daniel didn't know what to make of it. He asked one of the other maintenance workers, a guy named Marcus who'd been with the company for 15 years, if he'd ever seen the CEO down in the basement at night. Marcus had given him a strange look. You seen her? Yeah, multiple times. Then you know more than most people. Marcus leaned on his cleaning cart. She's been doing that for years, since before I started. Nobody talks about it. We just let her walk. But why? Hell if I know. But word is, you don't ask, you don't stare. You definitely don't bother her. She wants to walk the basement at 2 in the morning. That's her business. Marcus had fixed Daniel with a serious look. And if you know what's good for you and that little girl of yours, you'll pretend you never saw her down here. Understood? Daniel had understood. But Lily hadn't. Chat. She talked to me, Lily said one night about a month ago. They were eating breakfast in their apartment after Daniel's shift. Cereal for her, black coffee for him. The sad lady. Daniel's spoon stopped halfway to his mouth. What? The lady who comes at night. She talked to me. Lily, what did I tell you about staying in the room when I'm working? I didn't leave. She came in. Lily swung her legs under the table. I woke up and she was there looking at my books. She asked if I liked stories. Daniel's chest tightened. What did you say? I said yes, and she asked which one was my favorite. Lily pointed to her backpack, where a worn copy of a picture book stuck out of the side pocket. I showed her the one about the bear who's afraid of the dark. She said she liked that one too when she was little. And then what? Then she left. Lily took another bite of cereal. But she smiled at me first. She has a nice smile. It made her look less sad. Daniel didn't know what to do with that information. The CEO of Cross Industries had been alone in a room with his daughter, talking about children's books. It was surreal, inappropriate, and yet somehow Lily seemed completely untroubled by it. He thought about saying something to someone, HR maybe, or building security, but what would he say? That the CEO was being kind to his daughter during unauthorized visits to a storage room where he wasn't supposed to have her in the first place? It would end with him losing his job and possibly facing legal action for violating company policy. So he said nothing. The encounters continued. Never long conversations, just brief exchanges when Evelyn appeared in the basement and found Lily awake. A question about a book. A comment about a drawing. Once, Evelyn had helped Lily find a missing shoe. And slowly, over those weeks, something shifted. Lily started talking about the night lady, the way other kids talked about favorite teachers or beloved relatives. She started staying awake on nights when she knew Evelyn might appear, asking Daniel if he thought the night lady would come tonight. She drew pictures, crayon sketches of a tall woman with dark hair standing next to a small girl, both of them smiling. Why is she always alone? Lily asked one morning. Doesn't she have a family? I don't know, baby. I think she's lonely. Like how I get lonely when you're working and I'm by myself. Lily tilted her head thoughtfully. Maybe she needs a friend. Daniel's throat felt tight. Maybe. 2 weeks ago, everything changed. Lily fell. It happened fast. She'd woken up while Daniel was 2 floors above, cleaning executive offices. She'd left the storage room looking for him, wandering into the main corridor. The basement floor was polished concrete, slick in places where condensation gathered. She'd been running, calling for her daddy, and her foot slipped. The sound of her crying brought Daniel racing down the stairs, his heart in his throat. He found her sitting on the floor, clutching her knee, tears streaming down her face. Blood seeped through her fingers. I'm sorry, she sobbed. I'm sorry. I know I wasn't supposed to leave. Shh, baby, it's okay. He scooped her up, checking the wound. It was a bad scrape, deep and ugly, but not serious. Let's get you cleaned up. What happened? The voice came from behind them. Daniel turned to find Evelyn Cross standing in the corridor, still in her black coat, her face pale. It was 2:30 in the morning. She fell, Daniel said shortly. I've got it handled, but Evelyn was already moving forward. Let me see. Ms. Cross, really? It's fine. Let me see. It wasn't a request. Daniel hesitated, then shifted Lily so Evelyn could see the scraped knee. Evelyn crouched down, examining the wound with surprising gentleness. It needs to be cleaned properly. Come with me. She led them to a maintenance closet, flipped on the lights, and found the first aid kit. Without asking permission, she wet a clean cloth and began carefully cleaning Lily's knee. Her movements were practiced, confident, not the careful distance of someone uncomfortable around children, but the easy competence of someone who'd done this before. "This is going to sting," she warned Lily. "But you're brave, aren't you?" Lily nodded, biting her lip as Evelyn applied antiseptic. To her credit, she didn't cry, just gripped her father's hand tight and watched Evelyn's face. "There." Evelyn applied a bandage, smoothing the edges down carefully. "All better. You're very brave." "Thank you," Lily whispered. Evelyn stood, disposing of the bloodied cloth and closing the first aid kit. For a moment, she just looked at them, a maintenance worker and his daughter, both disheveled and exhausted, standing in a basement closet at 2:30 in the morning. Something flickered in her eyes, some emotion Daniel couldn't name. Then she turned and walked away without another word. That was when it started, the real connection. The next night, Evelyn brought children's books. Good ones, hardcover editions of classics that probably cost more than Daniel's weekly paycheck. She left them in the storage room without comment, stacked neatly on the blanket where Lily slept. The night after that, she brought a better lamp, and a pillow that actually had support instead of the flat, worn thing Daniel had salvaged from a donation bin. A week later, she brought a stuffed animal, a small bear, soft and well-made, the kind sold in expensive toy stores. Lily named it Hope. "Because," she explained to Daniel, "the night lady gives me hope that maybe nice people exist." And that's when Daniel realized his daughter was getting attached. Really attached. To a woman who existed only in the strange twilight world of late-night basement corridors, who appeared and disappeared like a ghost, who showed kindness but never explained herself, never stayed long enough to be anything more than a fleeting presence. It worried him. But he didn't know how to stop it without explaining to Lily why she couldn't care about someone who was kind to her. And he couldn't find a good reason for that, except fear. Fear that Evelyn would stop coming, fear that Lily would be hurt, fear that this fragile thing they'd all built in the darkness would shatter under the weight of reality. Then came the morning with the elevator. It was the first time Lily had seen Evelyn during daylight hours. Daniel's shift had run late, a pipe had burst on the 42nd floor, and he'd stayed to help with the cleanup. By the time they finished, it was 7:30, and the building was filling with the morning rush. They'd gotten on the elevator on the 3rd floor. It was crowded, executives heading to meetings, assistants carrying coffee orders, everyone pressed together in that uncomfortable morning silence. The elevator stopped on the 15th floor, and more people crowded in, including Evelyn Cross. She was different in daylight, harder, more polished, surrounded by assistants and radiating authority. She stepped into the elevator without looking at anyone, her attention on her phone as her team pressed in around her. Lily, standing next to Daniel, had frozen. She'd stared at Evelyn with wide eyes, recognition dawning on her face. And before Daniel could stop her, before he could even register what was happening, she'd let go of his hand and pushed through the crowd. "Mommy!" The word shattered the morning quiet. Every head turned. Evelyn looked up from her phone, her expression shifting from confusion to shock as Lily wrapped her arms around her legs, hugging tight. "I didn't know you came here too," Lily said happily. "Daddy works here at night, and you visit us, and now you're here in the daytime, and—" Daniel grabbed Lily, pulling her back, his face burning with embarrassment and fear. Around them, executives whispered. Security guards moved forward. Evelyn's assistants looked horrified, and Evelyn just stood there, her carefully controlled expression cracking for the first time since Daniel had known her, something raw and painful bleeding through. The elevator reached the lobby, the doors opened, and Evelyn, in a voice that cut through the whispers like a knife, had said, "Why does your daughter call me that, Mom?" Now, sitting in Evelyn's office 63 floors above the city, Daniel finished the story. Lily slept in his arms, exhausted. The morning sun had shifted, no longer backlighting Evelyn, but flooding the office with light that made everything feel overexposed, too bright, too real. Evelyn sat very still behind her desk. She'd listened to the entire story without interrupting, her expression unreadable. Now she was quiet for a long time, her gaze distant, fixed on something beyond the windows. When she finally spoke, her voice was barely above a whisper. "I had a daughter." The words fell into the silence like stones into still water. Daniel waited. Her name was Sophie. She was 4 years old. Evelyn's hands were flat on the desk, her knuckles white. There was an accident, a car accident, 7 years ago. My husband was driving. They both died instantly. I'm sorry, Daniel said quietly. Everyone's sorry. Sorry doesn't change anything. Evelyn looked at him, and for the first time he saw past the carefully constructed armor to the raw grief beneath. I built this company from nothing after they died. Worked 18-hour days, slept in my office, anything to avoid going home to an empty house. And at night, when the building is quiet and empty, I walk. I've been walking these corridors for 7 years, Mr. Brooks, trying to outrun something that can't be outrun. She stood, moving to the window, her back to him. Then I saw your daughter, sleeping in a basement storage room, surrounded by books and blankets, and the kind of improvised safety that desperate people create. And I saw myself standing there, looking at her, and I remembered what it felt like to tuck a child into bed, to smooth hair back from a sleeping face, to feel needed by someone small and vulnerable. Her voice cracked. I told myself I was just checking, making sure she was safe, but that was a lie. I was there because for 5 minutes, standing in that doorway, I could remember what it felt like to be someone's mother. Tears ran down her face now, silent and unchecked. And then she started talking to me, smiling at me, drawing pictures of me. And I should have stopped. I should have walked away, but I couldn't, because for the first time in 7 years, I felt something other than grief. She turned to face Daniel, her face wet, but her voice steady. Your daughter doesn't call me mommy because she's confused, Mr. Brooks. She calls me that because I let her, because I showed up night after night and I let myself pretend that I could be what I lost. And that was selfish. That was wrong. And I'm sorry. Daniel looked at the woman standing before him, powerful, wealthy, broken, and saw past the titles and the money and the corner office to the simple, terrible truth underneath. She was just a parent who'd lost everything, just like him. You didn't do anything wrong, he said quietly. I took advantage. You showed kindness to a lonely little girl. You made her feel seen. You gave her something she's been missing since her mother died. He adjusted Lily carefully against his shoulder. Do you know what she told me last week? She said you make her feel safe, not because you're powerful or rich or important, but because you kneel down when you talk to her, because you remember which books are her favorites, because you smile at her like she matters. Evelyn's composure shattered. She pressed a hand to her mouth, turning back to the window, her shoulders shaking with silent sobs. Daniel stood slowly, careful not to wake Lily. He waited until Evelyn's breathing steadied, then spoke again. My daughter lost her mother too soon, and you lost your daughter too soon. And somehow, in the middle of the night in a corporate basement, you found each other. I don't think that's wrong, Ms. Cross. I think that's the first real thing that's happened to either of you in years. Evelyn wiped her face with the back of her hand, a gesture so ordinary it made her seem young, vulnerable. What happens now? I don't know. But I know Lily's going to wake up soon, and she's going to ask about the nice lady from the elevator. And I'm going to have to explain something I don't fully understand myself. Daniel paused. Unless you want to explain it. Me? She trusts you, more than she trusts most people. He shifted Lily's weight, and maybe you could use someone who trusts you without wanting anything except for you to show up. Evelyn looked at him for a long moment. Then slowly she nodded. I can't be her mother, she said quietly. I'm not asking you to be. I'm just asking if you want to be someone who matters to her, because that's what you already are. In his arms, Lily stirred. Her eyes opened slowly, and she blinked up at the bright office, confused. Then she saw Evelyn standing by the window, and her whole face lit up. Hi, she said sleepily. Are you the day lady or the night lady? Evelyn laughed, a broken, beautiful sound. She crossed the office and crouched down in front of Daniel's chair, bringing herself to Lily's eye level. I'm both, she said gently, and I'm sorry I confused you. That's okay, Lily yawned. Are you still sad? Evelyn's smile wavered. Sometimes, but less than I used to be. Because of me? Yes, sweetheart, because of you. Lily thought about that for a moment, then reached out and patted Evelyn's hand with the grave seriousness only a 5-year-old could manage. That's good. Everybody needs somebody to make them less sad. And Evelyn Cross, billionaire CEO, corporate titan, a woman who commanded empires and bent markets to her will, took a little girl's hand and said, "You're right, they do." The moment stretched out, fragile and perfect. Then Rachel's voice crackled over the intercom, shattering the quiet. "Miss Cross, the Meridian board is waiting in conference room A." Reality crashed back in. Evelyn stood slowly, composing herself, the armor sliding back into place. But something had changed. When she looked at Daniel now, it wasn't with the cold distance of a CEO addressing an employee. It was person to person, parent to parent. "You'll need to make arrangements for proper childcare," she said. "I'll have HR connect you with our family services coordinator. We have partnerships with several facilities that offer 24-hour care. I can't afford. The company will subsidize it. Consider it part of your benefits package." She moved behind her desk, already shifting back into executive mode. "And Mr. Brooks?" "Yes?" "Bring Lily by on Saturday. There's a children's museum downtown. I thought." She hesitated, vulnerability flickering across her face. "I thought we could go together, if that's all right with you." Daniel felt something loosen in his chest. "We'd like that." Evelyn nodded once, brisk and professional, but when she looked at Lily, her expression softened. "Goodbye, Lily." "Bye." Lily waved enthusiastically. "See you Saturday." Daniel carried his daughter to the elevator, feeling the weight of every eye on them as they crossed the executive floor. But for the first time since Sarah's death, the weight didn't feel crushing. It felt like possibility. Behind them, through the glass walls of the corner office, Evelyn Cross stood at the window overlooking the city. And for the first time in 7 years, when she looked at her reflection in the glass, she didn't see a ghost. She saw a woman who'd been given a second chance. Not to replace what she'd lost, nothing could do that, but to be someone who mattered to a little girl who needed exactly what Evelyn had to give: presence, consistency, the simple gift of showing up. It wasn't everything, but it was a beginning. The elevator descended in silence, passing floor after floor of the empire Evelyn Cross had built from grief and determination. Daniel held Lily against his chest, feeling her small heartbeat through the thin fabric of her jacket. She'd fallen back asleep, exhausted from the emotional whirlwind of the morning, her thumb finding its way to her mouth in that unconscious gesture of comfort. When the doors opened on the lobby, Marcus was waiting by the maintenance office, his expression tight with concern. "Brooks, we need to talk." Daniel's stomach dropped. "Marcus, I can explain." "Not here." Marcus glanced around the busy lobby, where executives hurried past with coffee and phones pressed to their ears. "Break room. Now." The maintenance break room was a windowless space in the building's interior, furnished with a battered couch, a microwave that worked half the time, and a coffee maker that produced something resembling motor oil. Marcus closed the door behind them and leaned against it, arms crossed. "Do you have any idea what you've done?" "I didn't do anything." Lily saw someone she recognized and called the CEO of this entire company Mommy in front of 20 witnesses. Marcus ran a hand over his face. "Jesus, Brooks, I told you to keep your head down. I told you not to let anyone know about the kid." "I've been careful." "Careful? The whole building is talking about it. Security's asking questions. HR is getting calls." Marcus's voice dropped. "And Valdez wants to see you in his office at noon." Frank Valdez was the facilities director, Marcus's boss, and the man who ultimately controlled whether Daniel kept his job or ended up on the street. Daniel had met him exactly once during his initial interview 8 months ago. Valdez had been professional but cold, making it clear that night maintenance was the bottom of the corporate ladder, and Daniel should feel grateful for the opportunity. "What does he want?" "What do you think? You've been bringing an unauthorized minor into the building, storing her in company space, creating a massive liability issue." Marcus shook his head. "I vouch for you, Brooks. When you first started, I told Valdez you were solid, that you'd work hard and stay out of trouble. And now this." Guilt twisted in Daniel's chest. "I'm sorry. I never meant to drag you into—" "Too late for that." Marcus was quiet for a moment, his anger fading into something closer to resignation. Look, I get it. You're doing what you have to do, but there are rules, and you broke all of them. And now you're going to have to face the consequences. Daniel looked down at Lily, still sleeping peacefully in his arms, unaware that her father's job, their only source of income, their only shot at stability, was hanging by a thread. The unfairness of it burned in his throat. He'd been working harder than anyone else on the night crew, taking extra shifts, volunteering for the worst jobs, and all of it was about to collapse because his daughter had recognized kindness when she saw it. Miss Cross said she'd help with childcare, he said quietly. She said the company would subsidize it. Marcus's eyebrows shot up. She said that? To you? Directly? In her office, just now. And you believe her? I don't know what to believe. Daniel shifted Lily's weight, his arms aching. But she wasn't lying. I could see it in her face. You could see what you wanted to see, Marcus said, but his tone had softened slightly. Listen, Brooks, I've worked for this company for 15 years. And in that time, I've learned one thing. When you're at the bottom of the ladder, promises from the top floor don't mean much, especially when those promises haven't been put in writing. So what do? You go to that meeting with Valdez, you apologize, you promise it won't happen again, and you hope to God he doesn't fire you on the spot. Marcus opened the door, then paused. And Brooks, whatever Ms. Cross said to you up there, don't count on it. People like her don't fix problems for people like us. They just make the problems disappear. The words stayed with Daniel through the rest of the morning. He took Lily home to their cramped apartment, settled her on the couch with a bowl of cereal and cartoons, and tried not to think about what would happen if he lost this job. The rent was already 2 weeks overdue. The medical bills from Sarah's treatment still arrived monthly, even though she'd been gone for 2 years. Without the Cross Industries paycheck, he'd have maybe 3 weeks before eviction, maybe less. At 11:30, he kissed Lily goodbye and promised the neighbor, a tired woman named Mrs. Chen, who watched Lily for $20 a day when Daniel had daytime obligations, that he'd be back by 2. Then he took the bus back to the tower, his stomach churning with anxiety. Valdez's office was on the 8th floor, in a section of the building Daniel had never visited during his night shifts. The administrative floors had a different feel from the gleaming executive spaces above, or the utilitarian maintenance areas below. Everything here was aggressively corporate: gray carpet, beige walls, motivational posters about teamwork and excellence. The facilities director's assistant, a young man with carefully styled hair and a name tag that read Jeremy, looked up from his computer as Daniel approached. Daniel Brooks? Mr. Valdez will see you now. The office was small but meticulously organized. Filing cabinets along one wall, a desk with nothing on it except a computer monitor and a single folder. Frank Valdez sat behind the desk, a thin man in his mid-50s with steel gray hair and the kind of face that looked like it had forgotten how to smile years ago. Mr. Brooks, sit down. Daniel sat. The chair was deliberately uncomfortable, the kind designed to make visitors want to leave as quickly as possible. Valdez opened the folder, scanning its contents with the expression of someone reading a medical diagnosis. You've been with Cross Industries for 8 months. Your performance reviews have been satisfactory. Your supervisor describes you as reliable and hardworking. He looked up, which makes this morning's incident all the more disappointing. Sir, I can explain. I'm sure you can, but before you do, let me explain something to you. Valdez closed the folder, his movements precise. This company has 32,000 employees across 14 countries. We have extensive policies governing workplace conduct, safety protocols, and liability management. These policies exist for a reason, Mr. Brooks, and one of those policies explicitly prohibits bringing unauthorized individuals into company facilities, especially minors. I understand, but furthermore, Valdez continued as if Daniel hadn't spoken, storing a child in a basement storage room creates enormous legal exposure for this company. If anything had happened to your daughter, an injury, an accident, anything at all, Cross Industries would be facing lawsuits, regulatory investigations, and public relations disasters that would cost millions to resolve. Daniel's hands clenched in his lap. Nothing happened. She was always safe. You don't know that. You can't know that. Valdez's voice was flat, matter of fact. Children are unpredictable. Accidents happen. And the moment you brought her into this building without authorization, you made her our liability. I didn't have a choice. Everyone has choices, Mr. Brooks. It was exactly what Evelyn had said that morning, but coming from Valdez, the words felt like an accusation rather than an observation. With all due respect, sir, you don't know my situation. You're right, I don't. And frankly, I don't need to. Valdez picked up a pen, clicking it open and closed with mechanical precision. What I need to know is whether you can follow company policy going forward, because if you can't, this conversation ends with your termination. The words hung in the air like a blade. Daniel felt his chest tighten, the familiar weight of impossible choices pressing down on him. Agree to Valdez's terms and lose his daughter's only supervision during his shifts. Refuse and lose the job entirely. Either way, he lost. I can follow policy, he said quietly, but I need help with childcare. I can't afford the kind of 24-hour facility that's not the company's problem. Actually, a new voice said from the doorway, it is. Both men turned. Rachel, Evelyn's assistant, stood in the entrance to Valdez's office, holding a tablet and wearing an expression that suggested she'd rather be anywhere else. I'm sorry to interrupt, she said, though her tone suggested she wasn't sorry at all. But Ms. Cross asked me to deliver this to you personally, Mr. Valdez. She crossed the office and handed him the tablet. Valdez's expression shifted from irritation to surprise to something that might have been fear as he read whatever was on the screen. She can't be serious. Ms. Cross is always serious, Rachel said calmly. She's asked me to ensure you have everything you need to implement the new policy immediately. What new policy? Daniel asked. Rachel turned to him, her professional mask slipping for just a moment to reveal something that might have been sympathy. Effective immediately, Cross Industries is expanding its family support services for all employees. This includes subsidized childcare for night shift workers, with priority placement at facilities that offer 24-hour care. Daniel stared at her. She actually did it. Ms. Cross keeps her promises, Mr. Brooks. Rachel looked back at Valdez. The memo will go out to all department heads within the hour. HR is already coordinating with childcare providers to ensure we have enough capacity for employees who need it. Valdez's jaw was tight. This is a significant operational change. It should have gone through the proper approval channels. It did. Ms. Cross approved it. As CEO, that's all the approval necessary. Rachel's smile was polite but steel-edged. Unless you'd like to escalate your concerns to her directly. The threat was subtle but unmistakable. Valdez set down the tablet carefully, his expression neutral. No, that won't be necessary. Excellent. Then Mr. Brooks will be enrolled in the program as of today. HR will contact him by end of business with the details. Rachel turned to leave, then paused. Oh, and Mr. Valdez? Ms. Cross also wanted me to remind you that Mr. Brooks's performance reviews have been exemplary. She'd hate to lose such a valuable employee over a misunderstanding about policy. The message was clear. Daniel's job was protected. By Evelyn Cross herself. After Rachel left, Valdez sat in silence for a long moment, his fingers drumming against the desk. When he finally spoke, his voice was carefully controlled. It seems you have friends in high places, Mr. Brooks. I wouldn't say friends. I would choose your next words carefully. Valdez's eyes were cold. Because while Ms. Cross may have protected you today, I'm still your supervisor, and I'll be watching to make sure you don't give me any reason to revisit this conversation. Are we clear? Yes, sir? Good. You're dismissed. Daniel stood on shaking legs and walked out of the office, his mind reeling. In the hallway, he leaned against the wall and took several deep breaths, trying to process what had just happened. Evelyn had actually followed through. She'd created an entire new company policy to help him, and in doing so, had helped countless other employees in similar situations. His phone buzzed, a text from an unknown number. HR will call you at 2 p.m. Make sure you're available. Rachel. Daniel stared at the message, then typed back. Thank you. Can you tell Ms. Cross I said thank you? The response came quickly. Tell her yourself. Saturday, 10 a.m. She'll pick you up. Saturday, the museum. The promise Evelyn had made that morning in her office. Daniel had half convinced himself it wouldn't happen, that she'd change her mind or get too busy or simply forget. But here was confirmation, concrete and undeniable. She was really going to show up. The next few days passed in a blur of arrangements and adjustments. HR called exactly at 2 p.m., connecting Daniel with a family services coordinator named Patricia, who spoke with the brisk efficiency of someone who'd done this 1,000 times. By Wednesday, Lily was enrolled at Bright Horizons, a child care facility 3 blocks from their apartment that offered overnight care for shift workers. The cost was subsidized by Cross Industries to the point where Daniel would pay less than he'd been spending on Mrs. Chen. "This is temporary, right?" Lily asked on Thursday night as Daniel packed her overnight bag for the first time. "I can still see the night lady?" "She's not the night lady anymore, baby. Her name is Ms. Cross. But I can still see her? On Saturday, we're going to a museum together." Lily's face lit up. "Really? With Ms. Cross?" "Yes, really." "Is she my friend now?" Daniel crouched down to Lily's level, the question more complicated than his daughter could understand. "She's someone who cares about you, and that's pretty special, isn't it?" Lily nodded solemnly, then threw her arms around his neck. "I'm glad she's not sad anymore." But Daniel wasn't sure that was true. When he'd seen Evelyn at the tower over the past few days, brief glimpses as she moved through the building, always surrounded by assistants and executives, she'd looked the same as before, controlled, distant, armored against the world. Maybe the armor only came off in the darkness. Or maybe, Daniel thought, she was just better at hiding her pain during daylight hours. Friday night, his first shift with Lily at the new childcare facility, felt strange. The building seemed emptier without her sleeping in the basement, without the knowledge that she was just a few floors away. He found himself checking his phone obsessively, waiting for a call from Bright Horizons saying there was a problem, that Lily was upset, that he needed to come get her. But the call never came, and when he picked her up at 6:30 Saturday morning, she was chattering happily about the other kids and the nice lady named Miss Sarah who'd read them stories before bed. "Did you sleep okay?" Daniel asked as they rode the bus home. "Uh-huh, but I missed you." She yawned, leaning against his shoulder. "And I missed the night lady. Does she know where I am now?" "I think so, baby." "Good, because I want to tell her about the museum. She said she used to go there when she was little." Daniel's chest tightened. Evelyn had been there with Sophie, probably. Making memories that now existed only as ghosts, painful reminders of everything she'd lost. Back at the apartment, Daniel showered and changed into his best clothes. Khakis and a button-down shirt that had seen better days but was at least clean and pressed. He helped Lily into a blue dress that Sarah had bought for her 4th birthday, one of the few nice things they still owned. "Do I look pretty?" Lily asked, spinning in front of the bathroom mirror. "You look beautiful." "Will Miss Cross think so?" "I'm sure she will." At 9:50, Daniel's phone rang. An unknown number. "Mr. Brooks? This is James. I'm Ms. Cross's driver. We're downstairs whenever you're ready." Daniel looked out the window of their 3rd-floor apartment and saw it. A black town car parked at the curb, absurdly out of place in their neighborhood of check-cashing stores and laundromats. A man in a gray suit stood beside it, phone to his ear. "We'll be right down." The driver, James, professional and polite, opened the door for them without comment, as if picking up a maintenance worker and his daughter from a rundown apartment building was completely normal. The car's interior smelled like leather and something expensive Daniel couldn't identify. Lily's eyes went wide as she climbed in, her small hands running over the smooth seats. "Daddy, it's so fancy," she whispered. "Remember what we talked about?" Daniel whispered back. Best behavior. The drive to the museum took 20 minutes through Saturday morning traffic. Daniel spent most of it staring out the window, trying to calm his nerves. What was he doing? Taking his daughter to meet with a billionaire CEO at a children's museum, as if they were friends, as if the enormous gulf between their worlds didn't exist. But then he thought about Evelyn standing in that basement corridor, tears on her face, saying she'd felt something other than grief for the first time in 7 years. And he thought about Lily calling her mommy, not because she was confused, but because she'd recognized something true. Maybe the gulf between their worlds wasn't as wide as it seemed. The museum was housed in a converted warehouse near the waterfront, its brick facade covered in colorful murals of children playing. James pulled up to the entrance where Evelyn stood waiting. She looked different in civilian clothes. Dark jeans, a cream-colored sweater, her hair down and loose around her shoulders. Without the severe suits and corporate armor, she seemed younger, more approachable, almost nervous. "Hi," she said as Daniel and Lily got out of the car. "I wasn't sure if you'd come." "I wasn't sure if you would," Daniel admitted. Evelyn's smile was small but genuine. "I promised, didn't I?" Then Lily ran forward and grabbed Evelyn's hand, all shyness forgotten in the excitement of the moment. "Can we see the dinosaurs first? Please?" Evelyn looked down at the little girl holding her hand, and something in her expression broke open. Just for a second, just enough for Daniel to see the raw emotion underneath. Then she composed herself, but her voice was soft when she answered. "Of course we can. Let's go." The museum was exactly what it claimed to be. 3 floors of interactive exhibits designed for children, full of noise and color and controlled chaos. Lily dragged them from dinosaur bones to space exhibits to a massive water play area where kids in rain jackets experimented with dams and water wheels. And Evelyn kept up with all of it. She knelt in front of exhibits so she could see them from Lily's height. She answered questions about planets and fossils with the patience of someone who genuinely enjoyed explaining things. She helped Lily build a dam that actually worked, getting her sleeves wet in the process and laughing when water splashed her face. Daniel hung back, watching the two of them together, and saw what Lily must have seen in those late-night basement encounters. Someone who showed up fully, who paid attention, who made a child feel like the most important person in the world. "Your daughter is wonderful," Evelyn said during a quiet moment while Lily was engrossed in a dinosaur dig exhibit. They stood together watching her carefully brush sand away from plastic bones, her face serious with concentration. "She is," Daniel agreed. "She's everything I have." "You're doing a good job with her. I know that doesn't mean much coming from me, but it means a lot." Daniel turned to look at Evelyn. "And not just because of the childcare program, though that's changing our lives, but because Lily's happy around you, really happy. And she hasn't been that way with many people since her mother died." Evelyn's eyes glistened. "I don't want to confuse her or hurt her. I keep thinking that I should step back, that getting close is selfish, but you can't. No." Her voice was barely audible. "I can't." "Then don't." Daniel watched Lily discover another bone fragment, her squeal of delight echoing across the exhibit. "My daughter has already lost one person who loved her. She doesn't need to lose another." I can't replace... Nobody's asking you to replace anyone." Daniel's voice was gentle but firm. "We're just asking you to be here, to show up, to be exactly what you've already been." Evelyn nodded, not trusting herself to speak. They stood in silence for a moment, 2 broken people watching a happy child play, both understanding that healing didn't mean forgetting. It meant learning to carry the grief while still reaching for joy. "Daddy, Ms. Cross, come look!" Lily waved them over frantically. "I found a whole skeleton." They spent 2 more hours at the museum, had lunch in the cafe, where Lily announced to the entire table that Ms. Cross was her special friend, and Evelyn's face colored with pleasure and pain in equal measure. Visited the gift shop, where Evelyn bought Lily a stuffed dinosaur despite Daniel's protests. "It's just a small thing," Evelyn said quietly. "Let me do small things, please." How could he say no to that? As they walked back to the car, Lily between them holding both their hands, Daniel felt something shift in his understanding of the situation. This wasn't temporary. This wasn't going to fade away. Whatever had started in those basement corridors had taken root, and it was growing into something real and complicated and necessary for all 3 of them. "Thank you for today," he said as James opened the car door. "It meant everything to Lily and to me." "Can we do it again?" Evelyn asked, and there was something vulnerable in her voice, something that reminded Daniel she was asking permission to be part of their lives. "Yes. Anytime." Lily hugged Evelyn goodbye, squeezing tight. "I love you, Ms. Cross." The words hung in the air. Evelyn's breath caught. For a moment she couldn't move, couldn't speak. Then she knelt down and hugged Lily back, her eyes closed. I love you too, sweetheart. On the drive home, Lily chattered about everything they'd seen, every exhibit they'd visited, every moment of the perfect day. Daniel listened with half his attention while his mind replayed that moment. Evelyn saying, I love you, to his daughter with the fierce tenderness of someone who'd thought they'd never get to say those words again. He thought about Marcus's warning. People like her don't fix problems for people like us. But Marcus was wrong, because Evelyn Cross wasn't trying to fix their problems. She was trying to fix something broken in herself. And somehow, impossibly, that meant showing up for a little girl who needed someone to kneel down and tie her shoes and smile at her like she mattered. That night, after Lily was asleep, Daniel's phone buzzed with a text from the same unknown number Rachel had used before. Ms. Cross wanted me to thank you for today. She hasn't smiled like that in a very long time. Daniel stared at the message for a long moment, then typed back. Tell her she's welcome in our lives. Anytime. For as long as she wants. The response came almost immediately. She'll be there. And somehow, Daniel knew it was true. Whatever else happened, whatever complications arose, Evelyn Cross would show up. Not because she had to, but because somewhere in the darkness of a corporate basement, she'd found something worth showing up for. A reason to stop walking those empty corridors alone. A reason to remember what it felt like to be someone who mattered to a child. A reason, finally, to come home to something other than silence. The weeks that followed the museum visit settled into a rhythm that surprised Daniel with its naturalness. Every Saturday morning, James would arrive at their apartment building in the Blacktown car, and Lily would race down the stairs with barely contained excitement. Sometimes they went to parks, where Evelyn pushed Lily on swings with the careful attention of someone relearning how to play. Other times they visited the aquarium or the botanical gardens, or simply walked along the waterfront, Lily chattering between them about everything and nothing. And slowly, carefully, the three of them built something that didn't have a name, but felt increasingly like family. It was during their fourth Saturday together, at a playground near the harbor, that things began to shift in ways Daniel hadn't anticipated. Lily was on the monkey bars, concentrating fiercely on making it across without falling, while Daniel and Evelyn sat on a bench watching her. She's getting stronger, Evelyn observed. Last week she could only make it halfway. She's determined. Gets that from her mother. Daniel smiled, the memory bittersweet but no longer crushing. Sarah used to say Lily was stubborn enough to move mountains if she set her mind to it. It was the first time he'd mentioned Sarah directly to Evelyn, and he felt her go still beside him. Tell me about her, Evelyn said quietly. If you want to. Daniel looked at this woman who'd become such an unexpected presence in their lives, and realized he did want to. She was a teacher, second grade. She used to say that 7-year-olds were the perfect age because they were old enough to be interesting, but young enough to still believe in magic. He laughed softly. She made everything feel like an adventure, grocery shopping, folding laundry, all of it. She had this way of finding joy in ordinary things. Lily has that too. Yeah, she does. Daniel watched his daughter successfully traverse the monkey bars and pump her fist in victory. I'm terrified I'm going to mess it up, that I'm going to let the weight of everything, the bills, the exhaustion, the fear, crush that joy out of her. You won't, Evelyn said with certainty, because you show up. Every day, even when it's hard, you show up for her. That's what matters. Is that what you did? Before? Evelyn was quiet for a long moment. I tried to. Sophie was so small when she died, only 4. But I remember every bedtime story, every scraped knee, every time she laughed at something ridiculous. Her voice caught. My husband, Michael, he was the fun parent. I was always the serious one, worried about schedules and nutrition and developmental milestones. I kept thinking I had time to loosen up, to be more present, and then time ran out. Daniel reached over and took her hand. She startled slightly but didn't pull away. I'm sorry, he said simply. Me too. She squeezed his hand, then gently withdrew hers. But being with Lily, watching you parent her, it's teaching me something I didn't understand before. It's not about being perfect. It's about being there. Daddy, Ms. Cross, watch this. Lily hung upside down from the monkey bars, her face red with the effort of holding herself up. Careful, baby, Daniel called, his heart in his throat. But Evelyn was already moving, crossing the playground quickly to stand beneath Lily, her arms ready to catch her if she fell. "I've got you, sweetheart. Show me what you can do." Lily flipped herself over, carefully, triumphantly, and landed on her feet with Evelyn's hands steady on her shoulders. The pride on both their faces was identical. "Did you see? Did you see?" Lily bounced with excitement. "I saw! That was amazing!" Evelyn knelt down to Lily's level, brushing hair out of her face with a tenderness that made Daniel's chest ache. "You're very brave. Are you proud of me?" "So proud." "Good." Lily threw her arms around Evelyn's neck. "Because when people are proud of you, it means they love you. That's what Daddy says." Over Lily's shoulder, Evelyn's eyes met Daniel's. There was something raw and fragile in her expression, a question she couldn't quite ask. That evening, after James had driven them home and Lily was in the bathtub singing loudly off-key, Daniel's phone rang. Evelyn's number. She'd given it to him 2 weeks ago, though they'd never actually spoken on the phone before. "Is everything okay?" he answered. "Yes. No, I don't know." Evelyn's voice sounded different over the phone, less controlled. "I need to talk to you about something, and I need to do it before I lose my nerve." Daniel's pulse quickened. "Okay." "Not on the phone." "Can you meet me tomorrow? Sunday? At the office? I know it's your day off, but what time?" 2:00. "I'll have Rachel arrange childcare for Lily at the tower. There's a supervised play area on the 5th floor for employees' children during weekend emergencies." "Evelyn, you're scaring me. What's this about?" A long pause. "I'm going to tell you something that could change everything, and I need you to hear it somewhere private where we can talk honestly without worrying about who might overhear." After they hung up, Daniel stood in the bathroom doorway watching Lily play with her bath toys, anxiety knotting in his stomach. What could Evelyn possibly need to tell him that required such secrecy and formality? Had she changed her mind about being part of their lives? Had the board found out about her involvement with a maintenance worker's family and demanded she cut ties? "Daddy, you look worried," Lily observed, pouring water from one cup to another. "Just thinking about work stuff, baby." "Is Miss Cross in trouble?" "No, sweetheart. Why would you think that?" "Because you get that same face when I'm in trouble, all scrunchy." She demonstrated, wrinkling her forehead in exaggerated concern. Daniel laughed despite his anxiety. "Everything's fine, I promise." But as he tucked Lily into bed an hour later, reading her favorite story about the bear who was afraid of the dark, he couldn't shake the feeling that something fundamental was about to shift. Sunday afternoon arrived with the weight of inevitability. Mrs. Chen agreed to watch Lily for a few hours, though she gave Daniel a curious look when he mentioned he was meeting someone at his workplace on a weekend. The bus ride to the tower felt longer than usual, every stop stretching out his anticipation and dread. The building was eerily quiet on Sundays. No crowds in the lobby, no constant elevator traffic, just the skeleton crew of weekend security and the distant hum of climate control systems. Daniel showed his employee badge to the guard at the desk, who checked a list and nodded. "You're cleared to go up, Mr. Brooks. Miss Cross is expecting you." The executive elevator rose silently to the 63rd floor. When the doors opened, Rachel was waiting, professional as always despite the casual Sunday clothes. "Mr. Brooks, Miss Cross is in her office. She asked not to be disturbed." Rachel's expression softened slightly. "Whatever she tells you today, please remember that she's trying to do the right thing. It may not feel like it at first, but she is." Before Daniel could ask what that meant, Rachel was walking away toward the regular elevators, leaving him alone in the hushed executive suite. He found Evelyn standing at the windows of her office, silhouetted against the afternoon light exactly as she'd been that first morning weeks ago. But this time, when she turned to face him, her armor was already cracked, her vulnerability visible. "Thank you for coming." She gestured to the couch along the wall, rather than the formal chairs facing her desk. "Please sit. This isn't a business conversation." Daniel sat, his hands clasped between his knees, watching as Evelyn paced the length of the windows. She seemed to be gathering her thoughts, or perhaps her courage. "I've been thinking about what Lily said yesterday," she finally began, "about how being proud of someone means you love them. And I realize she's right. I am proud of her, and I do love her. But it's more complicated than that. And you deserve to know exactly what you're getting into by letting me be part of your lives. Evelyn, please let me finish before I lose my nerve. She stopped pacing and faced him directly. When Sophie died, I didn't just lose my daughter. I lost my marriage, my sense of purpose, my understanding of who I was. Michael and I were driving home from her birthday party. A drunk driver ran a red light. Michael died on impact. Sophie lived for 3 hours in the hospital, and I sat with her the whole time, holding her hand, singing the songs she loved, while machines kept her heart beating. And then the doctors said there was no brain activity, that she was already gone, and I had to make the choice to let them turn off the machines. Daniel's throat tightened. I'm so sorry. Everyone says that, sorry, 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 as if the word could change anything. Evelyn's voice was steady, but her eyes glistened with tears. I buried my husband and daughter on the same day. A joint funeral. And then I went home to an empty house, and I realized I had two choices. I could fall apart completely, or I could build something so consuming that I wouldn't have time to feel anything. So you built an empire. I already had a successful company, but I turned it into an empire. Worked 20-hour days, slept in my office, acquired competitors, expanded into new markets, pushed myself and everyone around me until Cross Industries became one of the most profitable corporations in the country. She laughed bitterly. And you know what I discovered? Success is a wonderful anesthetic. It numbs everything, until it doesn't. She moved to sit on the couch beside him, maintaining careful distance but close enough that he could see the tremor in her hands. About 3 years ago, the numbness started wearing off. I'd be in a meeting and suddenly I couldn't breathe. I'd be giving a presentation and I'd see Sophie's face. At night, the walking started. I couldn't sleep, couldn't stay home, so I came here and walked these empty corridors trying to outrun memories. Her voice dropped to almost a whisper. I saw a therapist. She said I was experiencing delayed grief, that I'd never properly processed what happened because I'd immediately buried it under work. She prescribed medication, recommended support groups, but I didn't want to process it, Daniel. I wanted it to stay buried. And then you met Lily. And then I met Lily, sleeping in a basement storage room, and something in me broke open. Or maybe it finally started healing. I don't know. Evelyn wiped at her eyes impatiently. But here's what you need to understand. I'm not a stable person. I'm not someone who's worked through their trauma in a healthy way. I'm someone who's barely holding it together, and my connection to your daughter is built on need as much as genuine care. Maybe more. Daniel absorbed this, trying to understand what she was really saying. Do you think that makes you dangerous to her? I think it makes me unreliable. What if I can't handle this? What if being close to Lily triggers something I can't control? What if I wake up one day and the pain of loving another little girl is too much and I disappear? She's already lost one mother, Daniel. I can't be the second person who abandons her. Is that what you're doing now? Preparing to disappear? I'm giving you the choice. Before this goes any further, before Lily gets any more attached, you need to decide if you trust me. Really trust me. Because once we cross that line, once I become a permanent part of her life instead of just someone who shows up on Saturdays, there's no going back without hurting her. Daniel looked at this woman who'd traveled from the penthouse to the basement and back again, who'd created company policies to help employees she'd never meet, who knelt down to tie a 5-year-old's shoes with the same attention she gave to billion-dollar deals. He thought about the mornings after their Saturday outings, when Lily would draw pictures of her family that now always included 3 figures instead of 2. He thought about the way Evelyn's face transformed when Lily called her name, the careful tenderness with which she touched his daughter's hair, the fierce protectiveness in her eyes when other children at the playground got too rough. I trust you, he said simply. You shouldn't. You barely know me. I know enough. I know you show up. I know you keep your promises. I know my daughter feels safe with you, and kids that age have good instincts about people. Daniel leaned forward. And I know that being broken doesn't make you dangerous. It makes you human. Do you think I'm not carrying my own damage? Do you think I'm not terrified every single day that I'm going to fail Lily somehow? That's different. It's not different at all. We're both just doing the best we can with what we have. And what we have, Evelyn, is each other. You, me, and Lily. That's not nothing. Evelyn's composure finally shattered. She covered her face with her hands, shoulders shaking with silent sobs. Daniel moved closer, hesitated for just a moment, then put his arm around her. She leaned into him, and they sat like that for a long time, two broken people holding each other up in the silent office high above the city. "I'm scared," she whispered against his shoulder. "I'm so scared of losing this." "Me too. But we can be scared together." When Evelyn finally pulled back, her face was blotchy and her eyes were red, but there was something lighter in her expression, as if a weight she'd been carrying for 7 years had finally been set down. "There's something else," she said. "Something practical that we need to discuss." "Okay." People are starting to notice. The Saturdays, the childcare program that appeared out of nowhere, the fact that I've been seen in public with you and Lily. She stood and moved to her desk, pulling out a folder. "I've had 3 different board members ask me about my relationship with a maintenance worker. HR has received anonymous complaints about favoritism, and there was an article in the business section last week speculating about whether I'm having some kind of breakdown because I've been delegating more meetings and leaving the office earlier on Fridays." Daniel's stomach sank. "I didn't realize it was causing problems for you." "It's not problems, it's complications, and I need to address them before they become problems." She opened the folder, revealing what looked like legal documents. "I've been working with my attorney on something, a formal arrangement that would make our relationship less questionable from a corporate governance perspective." "What kind of arrangement?" "Guardianship papers. Not adoption. I'm not trying to replace Sarah or take Lily away from you, but legal documentation that would make me Lily's guardian in case anything happens to you, and give me the right to make decisions about her welfare if you're incapacitated." Evelyn spoke quickly, as if afraid he'd interrupt. "It would also establish a trust fund for her education and future needs, completely separate from any corporate benefits. That way, if anyone questions my involvement, there's a legitimate legal relationship rather than just what could be perceived as inappropriate favoritism toward an employee's child." Daniel stared at the papers, his mind reeling. "You want to be Lily's legal guardian? Only if something happens to you, only as a safety net. But it would formalize what we're already building and protect all 3 of us from accusations of impropriety." She paused. "And honestly, Daniel, it would protect Lily. If something did happen to you, without legal documentation, she'd go into the foster system. Is that what you want?" "No, of course not." He thought about the nights he couldn't sleep, terrified of getting sick or injured and leaving Lily completely alone. "I always meant to set up something formal, name someone as her guardian, but everyone I knew from before Sarah died has moved away or lost touch. I didn't have anyone I trusted enough." "And now?" He met her eyes. "Now I do." Relief flooded Evelyn's face. "You're sure? This is a big step. It means I'm not just someone who shows up on Saturdays. It means I'm family." "You already are family. This just makes it official." She smiled, genuine and unguarded, and for the first time since he'd met her, Daniel saw the woman she must have been before grief reshaped her, warm, open, capable of joy. They spent the next hour going through the documents with a lawyer who appeared via video conference, explaining the technical details and answering Daniel's questions. By the time they finished, the afternoon light had shifted to the gold of early evening, and Daniel felt as if he'd crossed some invisible threshold into a new version of his life. "I should pick up Lily," he said, standing and stretching muscles stiff from sitting too long. "Mrs. Chen charges extra after 6. "Let me drive you both home. James is waiting downstairs." Evelyn hesitated. "And Daniel, would you and Lily like to have dinner with me? Nothing fancy, just the 3 of us. I could order in, we could eat at my place, let Lily see where I live." It was the first time she'd invited them into her private space, and Daniel understood the significance. "We'd like that. Let me call Mrs. Chen and let her know I'll be later than expected." An hour later, they were in Evelyn's penthouse apartment on the other side of the city, a space as carefully curated as her office, but somehow even more soulless. Everything was white or gray, modern furniture that looked like it belonged in a design magazine, windows that offered panoramic views of the harbor. But there were no photographs, no personal touches, nothing that suggested anyone actually lived here. Lily, however, was undeterred by the sterile environment. She explored with the fearless curiosity of childhood, asking questions about everything, declaring that Ms. Cross's apartment looked like a castle made of clouds. "It's very white," Evelyn said, seeing the space through Lily's eyes. "I suppose it is rather impersonal." "Where are your pictures?" Lily asked, looking at the empty walls. The question landed like a stone in still water. Evelyn's expression flickered with pain before she controlled it. "I don't have many pictures up," she said carefully. "Why not? Don't you have people you want to remember?" "Lily," Daniel said gently, "that's a personal question." "It's okay." Evelyn knelt down to Lily's level. "I do have people I want to remember, but sometimes looking at pictures makes me too sad, so I keep them put away where they're safe." Lily considered this with the seriousness of someone much older. "My daddy has lots of pictures of Mommy. Sometimes he looks at them and cries. But he says it's okay to cry because it means we still love her. Your daddy is very wise." "Maybe you could put up just one picture," Lily suggested, "of someone who makes you happy when you remember them. Then when you're sad, you can look at it and remember the happy parts." Evelyn's eyes filled with tears. "That's a wonderful idea, sweetheart. Maybe I'll do that." They ordered pizza, Lily's choice, and ate sitting on the floor of Evelyn's pristine living room, because Lily declared that picnics were more fun than table dinners. Evelyn looked mildly horrified at the grease spots on her white rug, but said nothing, and Daniel watched her slowly relax into the chaos that a 5-year-old naturally created. After dinner, while Lily was engrossed in drawing pictures with the expensive art supplies Evelyn had somehow procured, Daniel helped clean up in the kitchen. They worked in comfortable silence until Evelyn spoke. "Thank you for trusting me, with the guardianship papers, with all of this. I know it's not a small thing. Neither is what you're giving us: security, stability, the knowledge that Lily won't be alone if something happens to me." He paused. "But more than that, you're giving her something I couldn't give her on my own, someone else who loves her, someone else who shows up." "I need you to understand something," Evelyn said quietly, her hands stilling on the dish she was drying. "The way I feel about Lily, it's not just about filling a void Sophie left. Lily is her own person. She's funny and brave and impossibly kind, and I love her for who she is, not who she reminds me of." "I know that." "Do you?" "Because I need you to know that I see her. Really see her. Not as a replacement, not as a second chance, but as herself. As Lily Brooks, who's afraid of thunderstorms but not of heights, who thinks broccoli is disgusting but loves Brussels sprouts, who wants to be a veterinarian when she grows up because she thinks all animals deserve someone to take care of them." Daniel felt his throat tighten. "You really do see her." "How could I not? She's extraordinary." Evelyn set down the dish. "And so are you, Daniel. You're raising an incredible human being under impossible circumstances, and you're doing it with grace and patience and love. I hope you know that." Before he could respond, Lily appeared in the kitchen doorway, holding up a piece of paper. "Look, I drew our family." The picture showed 3 figures: a tall woman with dark hair, a man in the middle, and a small girl with a bright smile. They were holding hands, standing in front of what was probably meant to be Evelyn's building, with a giant sun overhead and flowers at their feet. At the top, in Lily's careful 5-year-old handwriting, she'd written, "My family, Daddy and Ms. Cross and me." Evelyn took the picture with shaking hands, staring at it as if it were the most precious thing she'd ever seen. When she looked up, tears streaked her face, but she was smiling. "Can I keep this?" she asked Lily. "Yes. You can put it on your wall. Then when you're sad, you can look at it and remember us and be happy." "I will, I promise." Evelyn knelt down and pulled Lily into a tight hug. "Thank you, sweetheart. This is the most beautiful thing anyone's ever given me." Over Lily's head, her eyes met Daniel's, and in that moment, he understood that they'd crossed a line they could never uncross. They were family now. Broken and imperfect and cobbled together from loss and loneliness, but family nonetheless. And for the first time in years, that felt like enough. That night, after James drove them home and Daniel tucked an exhausted Lily into bed, he sat alone in their small living room holding the copy of the guardianship papers Evelyn's lawyer had given him. The document was dense with legal language, but the meaning was clear. If anything happened to Daniel Brooks, Evelyn Cross would become Lily's guardian. She would have the right to make medical decisions, educational choices, all the responsibilities of parenthood. More than that, the trust fund she'd established meant Lily would never worry about money, never face the kind of desperate choices Daniel made every day. It should have felt like relief. Instead, it felt like standing on the edge of something vast and unknowable. His phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number, though by now Daniel recognized the pattern. Another message routed through Rachel. Ms. Cross wanted you to know that Lily's drawing is now hanging in her bedroom. First picture on her walls in 7 years. Thank you for tonight. Daniel stared at the message for a long moment, then typed back. Thank you for giving Lily someone else to love, and for letting us love you back. The response came quickly, and this time it was directly from Evelyn's number. I'm the one who should be thanking you. Sleep well, Daniel. He did sleep, better than he had in months, and woke to Lily bouncing on his bed at 6 in the morning, full of questions about when they'd see Ms. Cross again, and whether she liked the drawing and could they go back to her cloud castle soon. Soon, baby, I promise. But soon came faster than Daniel expected. Monday morning, he arrived at work to find a message from HR requesting his presence at 9 a.m. His stomach dropped. Despite Evelyn's protection, despite the guardianship papers sitting in his apartment, he still carried the bone-deep anxiety of someone who'd learned that security could vanish in an instant. The HR representative, a woman named Janet with kind eyes and graying hair, smiled when he entered her office. Mr. Brooks, please sit. I have some news about your employment status. Daniel's hands gripped the arms of the chair. Is there a problem? Quite the opposite. Due to your exemplary performance and the expansion of our facilities management division, we'd like to offer you a position as day shift supervisor. It would mean regular hours, 9 to 5, Monday through Friday, and a significant salary increase. You'd be managing a team of 12, overseeing maintenance operations for floors 1 through 30. The words didn't make sense. Daniel stared at her, trying to process. I've only been here 8 months. I don't have supervisory experience. I'm night shift maintenance. You have leadership potential that several people have noticed, including Ms. Cross during her review of personnel files. The position comes with full benefits, including enhanced childcare subsidies and health insurance that would cover you and your daughter comprehensively. Janet slid a folder across the desk. The offer letter is here. You don't have to decide immediately, but we'd like an answer by the end of the week. Daniel opened the folder with shaking hands. The salary listed was more than double what he currently made. With benefits like these, he could actually save money, could move to a better apartment, could stop choosing between Lily's needs and paying the bills. This is because of her, isn't it? Because of Ms. Cross. Janet's expression remained neutral. This is because you're a valuable employee who deserves advancement. How you came to Ms. Cross's attention is irrelevant to your qualifications. But they both knew the truth. Without Evelyn, Daniel would still be scrubbing toilets at 3 in the morning, invisible to everyone who mattered in the corporate hierarchy. He should have felt grateful. Instead, he felt a creeping sense of unease. Was this what their relationship would be? Evelyn solving his problems with money and influence, Daniel and Lily the grateful recipients of her generosity? Where was the line between help and dependence, between family and obligation? Can I think about it? He asked. Of course. Take your time. Daniel left HR and went straight to the maintenance break room, where Marcus was drinking his morning coffee and reading the sports section. You look like someone just offered you $1 million and you're trying to figure out the catch, Marcus observed. They offered me day shift supervisor, big raise, better hours. Marcus's eyebrows rose. Well, damn, congratulations. Is it though? Or is it just Evelyn Cross moving me around like a chess piece? Does it matter? Marcus set down his paper. Look, Brooks, I know you've got this thing with Ms. Cross, whatever it is. And yeah, she probably put in a word for you. But you think you're the first person in corporate history to get promoted because someone higher up noticed them? That's how the world works. The question isn't whether you earned it through pure merit in a perfect meritocracy. That's fantasy. The question is whether you can do the job. I don't know if I can. Then learn. Take the classes, ask questions, work your ass off, or don't take it, keep scrubbing floors at night, and tell yourself you maintained your principles. Marcus picked up his paper again. But in my experience, pride is expensive, and you've got a kid to feed. Daniel thought about that conversation all day as he went through his maintenance rounds. Marcus was right about pride being expensive, but he was also right that Daniel had Lily to think about. Better hours meant being home when she needed him. Better pay meant security. Better benefits meant he could actually take her to a doctor when she got sick, instead of hoping it would pass on its own. By the time his shift ended, he'd made his decision. That evening, after picking Lily up from Bright Horizons and getting her settled with dinner, he called Evelyn. "Daniel, is everything all right?" Her voice carried concern. "I need to ask you something, and I need you to be honest with me." A pause. "Of course. Did you create this supervisor position for me, or was it real?" Another pause, longer this time. When Evelyn spoke, her voice was careful. "The position was real. We've been planning to restructure facilities management for months, but yes, I made sure your name was at the top of the candidate list. I also may have emphasized your leadership qualities to Janet in HR. So I'm getting promoted because you want to help me, not because I'm actually qualified." "Oh, you're getting promoted because you're qualified and because I'm in a position to make sure qualified people don't get overlooked." Her voice grew firmer. "Do you know how many talented people never get opportunities because they don't have the right connections or the right background or someone willing to vouch for them? The system is already rigged, Daniel. I'm just rigging it in your favor for once." "That's not the same as earning it." "Earning it?" Evelyn's laugh was sharp. "You think the board members who promote their golf buddies' sons earn those positions? You think the executives who got their jobs because they went to the right schools earned them? Merit is a myth we tell ourselves to justify inequality. What you have is someone who sees your worth and has the power to do something about it. That's not charity. That's opportunity." Daniel closed his eyes, phone pressed to his ear. "I don't want to be your project. I don't want Lily to grow up thinking success means having a rich benefactor instead of working for what you want. Then take the job and work harder than everyone else. Prove you deserve it. But don't reject help out of some misguided sense that struggle is more noble than stability." Her voice softened. "I'm not trying to control you, Daniel. I'm trying to give you choices. You can turn this down, keep working nights, and I'll still show up every Saturday. That doesn't change. But if you take it, you'll have regular hours to spend with Lily. You'll have health insurance. You'll have a future that isn't just survival." After they hung up, Daniel sat on the couch staring at nothing while Lily colored at the coffee table. She was drawing another picture, this one of what looked like a building with tiny windows. "That's where you work, right, Daddy?" she said without looking up. "The big tall building where Ms. Cross lives." "She doesn't live there, baby. She works there, like I do." "But she's there all the time, even at night. So it's kind of like she lives there." Lily added a stick figure to the top floor. "That's her. She's looking out the window, being lonely." Daniel's chest tightened. "You think she's lonely?" "Sometimes. Not when we're with her, but other times." Lily picked up a different crayon. "That's why we need to visit more, so she's less lonely." Out of the mouths of children, Daniel thought. His 5-year-old daughter had understood something he was still struggling with. This wasn't about money or power or corporate politics. It was about 3 people who needed each other, trying to build something stable out of shared brokenness. The next morning, he went back to HR and accepted the position. The transition to day shift supervisor was harder than Daniel expected. He'd spent 8 months learning the rhythms of night maintenance, where the building was quiet and empty, where he could work at his own pace without oversight. Day shift was different. Constant activity, people everywhere, problems requiring immediate solutions. His team of 12 was a mix of veterans who resented being supervised by someone with less seniority and younger workers who tested boundaries constantly. And then there was the visibility. As a night maintenance worker, Daniel had been invisible. As a day shift supervisor, he was suddenly noticed. People knew his name. Executives nodded to him in hallways, and everyone, it seemed, knew about his connection to Evelyn Cross. The whispers started in the second week. "That's the guy, right? The one whose kid called Cross Mommy in the elevator? I heard she promoted him herself, bypassed the whole normal process. Must be nice having the CEO in your pocket." Daniel tried to ignore it, focusing on his work, proving through actions that he deserved the position. But the whispers wore on him, especially when they reached Lily. It happened at a company family event 3 weeks after his promotion. Cross Industries hosted quarterly gatherings for employees and their families. picnics, holiday parties, designed to build community and loyalty. Daniel had never attended before. Working nights meant he was always sleeping during these events. But as a supervisor, attendance was expected. Lily was thrilled, racing around the park where the picnic was held, playing with other employees' children. Daniel watched from the food tables, chatting with other supervisors, trying to fit in. Then he saw Lily approach a group of children near the playground, her face bright with excitement. "That's my daddy over there," she said proudly, pointing at Daniel. "He's a supervisor now, and that's Ms. Cross." She was pointing at Evelyn, who had just arrived with her security detail, making her requisite appearance at the company event. The other children's parents turned to look, their expressions shifting from curiosity to something harder. "Your daddy knows Ms. Cross?" one mother asked, her tone carefully neutral. "She's my friend. We go to museums and parks, and she has a cloud castle and—" "Lily, honey, why don't you come get some food?" Daniel called, sensing danger. But the damage was done. As Lily skipped away, Daniel caught the looks exchanged between parents, the raised eyebrows, the knowing smirks. He heard the whispered words carried on the breeze. Special treatment. Inappropriate. Taking advantage. Evelyn saw it too. She made her way through the crowd with the efficiency of someone used to navigating hostile territory, stopping briefly to shake hands and make small talk, but her eyes kept finding Daniel. When she finally reached him, her smile was professional, but her eyes were concerned. "Is everything all right?" "Fine," Daniel lied. "Daniel." She lowered her voice. "I can see it's not fine." Before he could respond, Lily appeared, grabbing Evelyn's hand with the unselfconscious affection that had become natural between them. "Ms. Cross, can you come see the face painting? They have butterflies." "In a minute, sweetheart. I need to talk to your daddy first." "Okay." Lily ran off toward the face painting booth. Evelyn turned back to Daniel. "What happened?" "People are talking about us, about the promotion, about our relationship with you, and Lily's starting to notice." Evelyn's jaw tightened. "Let them talk. Easy for you to say. You're the CEO. I'm the maintenance worker who got promoted under suspicious circumstances. There's nothing suspicious about recognizing talent. There is when everyone knows the only reason you noticed me is because my daughter mistook you for her mother." Daniel kept his voice low, but the frustration bled through. "I'm grateful for everything you've done, but this is my reputation, my career. And right now, everyone thinks I'm sleeping with you or manipulating you or both." Evelyn went very still. "Are they saying that? Specifically?" "They don't have to say it directly. I can see it in their faces, hear it in how conversations stop when I walk by." "Then I'll address it. I'll send out a company-wide memo clarifying that will make it worse. You defending me just proves I need defending." Daniel ran a hand through his hair, exhausted. "Maybe this was a mistake. Maybe I should turn down the promotion, go back to night shift, put some distance between—" "No." Evelyn's voice was sharp. "You've earned that position. You're good at it. I've read the reports from your team. Productivity is up, morale is improving, and you've solved problems that have been festering for years. Don't let office gossip convince you otherwise." It's not just gossip when it affects Lily. When other kids' parents look at her differently because they think her father is getting special treatment. Evelyn looked across the park to where Lily was getting a butterfly painted on her cheek, laughing with the artist. "What do you want me to do? Pull back? Stop seeing her?" "No," Daniel said immediately, the thought alone making his chest ache. "But we need to be more careful, more professional in public. People can't see us as anything other than what we are. An employee and employer who happen to have a separate private relationship involving my daughter." "Is that what we are?" Evelyn's voice was quiet. "An employee and employer?" Daniel met her eyes. "What else can we be? In public, I mean. We have to protect all three of us, and that means maintaining appropriate boundaries where people can see." "You're right." Evelyn's expression was carefully controlled, but something flickered in her eyes, hurt, maybe, or disappointment. "I'll be more careful about public interactions. And Daniel, I'm sorry. I never meant to make your life harder." She walked away before he could respond, moving through the crowd with practiced efficiency, stopping to chat with other employees, maintaining the perfect professional distance. And Daniel felt the loss of her proximity like a physical thing, even though he'd been the one to ask for distance. That night, after Lily was asleep, his phone rang. Evelyn. I've been thinking about what you said at the picnic, she began without preamble. And you're right. We need to be more careful about public perception, but I also need you to understand something. What? I'm not good at this. At having people in my life who matter. At navigating relationships that don't fit into neat professional categories. For 7 years, work was all I had. I knew how to be a CEO, knew how to make decisions and run companies. But being someone's guardian, She paused, searching for words. Someone's family. I don't have a template for that. And I'm terrified I'm going to mess it up. You're not messing it up, aren't I? I got you promoted and caused problems. I've been so focused on helping that I didn't consider how it would look to other people. Evelyn, listen to me. Daniel sat up, phone pressed to his ear. You're trying. That's what matters. Yeah, there are complications. And yeah, we need to figure out how to navigate them. But Lily loves you. He stopped, the word catching in his throat. We want you in our lives. All the messy, complicated parts of our lives. A long silence. Then, I want that too. More than I can explain. So we'll figure it out. Together. We'll be more careful in public, maintain professional boundaries at work. But on Saturdays, in private, we're just us. A family that doesn't make sense on paper but works anyway. A family, Evelyn repeated softly, as if testing the word. I like that. After they hung up, Daniel lay in the dark thinking about families. The ones you're born into, the ones you marry into, and the ones you build from scratch in basement corridors and corporate offices and children's museums. None of them were perfect. All of them required work. But some of them, the ones built on genuine care and showing up and choosing each other every day, those were the ones that lasted. The following Saturday, Evelyn picked them up as usual. This time, instead of a public outing, she took them to a private art class she'd arranged at a studio across town. Just the three of them and an instructor who taught them to paint on canvas. Lily created a masterpiece of enthusiastic color and complete disregard for realism. Daniel discovered he had no artistic talent whatsoever. And Evelyn painted a simple scene, 3 figures holding hands beneath a bright sun. Is that us? Lily asked, peering at the canvas. Yes, sweetheart. That's us. You made me taller than I am. That's because you're growing. By the time I finish this painting, you'll probably be exactly this tall. Lily considered this seriously, then nodded. Okay, that makes sense. Watching them together, Evelyn's careful brushstrokes adding details while Lily offered running commentary. Daniel felt something settle in his chest. This was what normal looked like for them. Not perfect, not conventional, but real and solid and worth protecting. The studio instructor, a woman in her 60s with paint-stained hands and kind eyes, watched them with a small smile. You have a beautiful family, she said to Evelyn during a break. Evelyn didn't correct her. She just looked at Daniel and Lily, at the life they were building together, and said, Thank you. We do. The weeks that followed found their rhythm. Daniel threw himself into his supervisor role, working harder than anyone else to prove he deserved the position. Slowly, the whispers faded as his competence became undeniable. He solved a flooding problem that had plagued the building for months. He reorganized the maintenance schedule to improve efficiency. He earned his team's respect through consistency and fairness. At work, he and Evelyn maintained careful professional distance. They didn't speak except when necessary, didn't acknowledge their personal relationship. To anyone watching, they were simply what the org chart said they were. CEO and facility supervisor, separated by 60 floors and an unbridgeable corporate hierarchy. But on Saturdays, they were family. They visited the zoo, where Lily declared she would become a veterinarian specializing in elephants. They attended a children's theater production, where Evelyn laughed at the chaotic performance with genuine delight. They had dinner at Evelyn's apartment, where Lily's drawing still held pride of place on the bedroom wall, now joined by others, a slowly growing gallery of crayon and marker masterpieces documenting their adventures. And late at night, after Lily was asleep, Daniel and Evelyn would sometimes talk on the phone, sharing the small details of their days, the victories and frustrations, the way old friends do, or the way family does. It was during one of these calls, 6 weeks after the picnic incident, that Evelyn brought up something she'd been thinking about. "I want to tell Lily the truth," she said, "about Sophie." Daniel had known this was coming. "What do you want to tell her?" "That I had a daughter who died. That I miss her every day. That knowing Lily doesn't replace Sophie, but it does help heal the parts of me that broke when I lost her." Evelyn's voice was steady but soft. "She's asked me why I don't have children. I've been deflecting, but she's smart. She deserves the truth. She's only 5. I know, but 5-year-olds understand death better than we think. She understands about her mother." A pause. "I don't want there to be secrets between us. I want her to know all of me, including the broken parts." "Okay," Daniel said. "When?" "Tomorrow, if you'll be there with us." The next day, Saturday, they went to the waterfront park where they'd spent that first playground afternoon. It was quieter now, fall turning the trees gold and red, the air carrying the first hint of winter. Lily played on the swings while Daniel and Evelyn sat on their usual bench, preparing for the conversation ahead. When Lily ran over, breathless and happy, Evelyn pulled her onto her lap, something that had become natural between them over the past months. "Sweetheart, I want to tell you something important," Evelyn began. "It's something sad, but it's also something I want you to know." Lily's expression grew serious. "Okay. A long time ago, before I met you and your daddy, I had a little girl. Her name was Sophie. She was 4 years old, and she loved butterflies and strawberry ice cream and the color purple." "Like me," Lily said. "I love all those things too." "I know you do. That's one of the many things that makes you special." Evelyn took a breath. "But Sophie died in an accident. She and her daddy were in a car crash, and they both went to heaven." Lily was quiet for a moment, processing. "Like my mommy?" "Yes, like your mommy." "That's very sad." "It is. It's the saddest thing that ever happened to me." Lily wrapped her arms around Evelyn's neck, hugging tight. "I'm sorry you're sad. Does it help when I hug you?" Evelyn's eyes filled with tears. "It helps so much, sweetheart. More than you know." "Do you think Sophie is friends with my mommy in heaven? Maybe they're playing together." Daniel's throat closed. Evelyn pressed her face against Lily's hair, her shoulders shaking with silent sobs. "I think that's a beautiful idea," she finally managed. "I bet they are friends." Lily pulled back, studying Evelyn's face with the frank assessment of childhood. "Is that why you were so sad when we first met you? Because you missed Sophie?" "Yes." "Are you still sad?" "Sometimes, but less than I used to be. Because I have you and your daddy now." "Good." Lily patted Evelyn's cheek gently. "Daddy says it's okay to be sad sometimes, as long as you also remember to be happy. Can you do that?" "I can try." "And we can help, right, Daddy?" "Right, baby," Daniel said, his voice rough with emotion. Lily seemed satisfied with this arrangement. She wriggled off Evelyn's lap and grabbed both their hands. "Can we get ice cream? Strawberry ice cream, like Sophie liked?" Evelyn laughed through her tears. "Yes, absolutely yes." They walked to the ice cream shop at the edge of the park, Lily swinging between them, chattering about everything and nothing, and Daniel watched Evelyn's face as she answered Lily's questions about Sophie, what she looked like, what games she liked to play, what her favorite bedtime story was. The grief was still there, would always be there, but it was softer now, integrated into something larger than loss. Later, after ice cream and another hour at the park, after James drove them home and Lily was bathed and in pajamas, she climbed into bed with Hope the bear tucked under one arm. "Daddy?" she said as Daniel tucked her in. "I'm glad Ms. Cross told me about Sophie." "Why is that, baby?" "Because now I understand. She didn't love me because I reminded her of Sophie. She loves me because I'm me, and that's better." Daniel kissed her forehead. "You're very wise, you know that?" "I know," Lily said matter-of-factly. "Ms. Cross says I'm special." After she fell asleep, Daniel texted Evelyn. "Thank you for trusting Lily with your truth. She understood more than you think." The response came quickly. "She's extraordinary. You both are. I don't know what I did to deserve this second chance, but I'm grateful for it every single day." Daniel stared at the message for a long moment, then typed, The feeling is mutual. And it was. Because somewhere in the space between loss and healing, between brokenness and wholeness, three people had found each other and built something that looked like family. It wasn't perfect, it wasn't conventional, but it was theirs, and it was real, and it was worth every complication and whisper and struggle. It was, Daniel thought as he finally turned off the lights and headed to bed, worth everything. Winter came to the city with the kind of cold that turned breath into clouds and made the harbor freeze at its edges. Daniel had been a supervisor for 3 months now, and the rhythm of day shift had become familiar. The morning meetings, the coordination with other departments, the satisfaction of solving problems before they became crises. His team respected him. The whispers had mostly died down, and for the first time since Sarah's death, he felt like he was building something instead of just surviving. But it was the rhythm of Saturdays that truly marked time now. Every week without fail, Evelyn showed up. Sometimes they went out, to museums or parks or the library where Lily would spend hours selecting books. Other times they stayed in, cooking dinner together at Evelyn's apartment while Lily narrated elaborate stories about the adventures of Hope the bear. These quiet moments, Daniel realized, were the ones Evelyn treasured most. The ones where she could just be present without the armor of her CEO persona, where she could laugh at Lily's terrible jokes and help with homework and be part of something ordinary and precious. It was 2 weeks before Christmas when everything changed. Daniel was in his office reviewing maintenance schedules when his phone rang. An unknown number, which usually meant spam, but something made him answer. "Mr. Brooks, this is Dr. Patel from City General Hospital. I'm calling about Evelyn Cross. She's listed you as her emergency contact." The world tilted. "What happened? Is she okay?" "She collapsed during a board meeting this morning. We're running tests now, but she's stable. She's asking for you and—" A pause, papers rustling. "Someone named Lily?" "We'll be there in 20 minutes. Daniel called Bright Horizons, arranged for early pickup, and was at Lily's childcare facility within 15 minutes. The drive to the hospital felt endless, Lily sensing his anxiety and going quiet in the back seat. "Is Miss Cross sick?" she asked in a small voice. "I don't know, baby, but we're going to see her, okay?" They found Evelyn in a private room on the 4th floor, sitting up in bed and looking frustrated rather than ill. She was still in her business clothes, minus the jacket, an IV in her arm, monitors beeping softly beside the bed. When she saw Lily, her expression transformed from irritation to relief. "Sweetheart, you didn't have to come," but Lily had already climbed onto the bed, careful of the wires and tubes, and wrapped herself around Evelyn like a small, determined octopus. "You scared us," Lily said accusingly. "You're not allowed to get sick." "I'm not sick, just stubborn. The doctors say I haven't been sleeping or eating properly." Evelyn looked at Daniel over Lily's head, her eyes apologetic. "I'm sorry they called you. It's not serious." "You collapsed in a meeting," Daniel said flatly. "That sounds serious." Before Evelyn could respond, Dr. Patel entered, a woman in her 50s with silver-streaked hair and the kind of competent presence that immediately inspired confidence. She glanced at Daniel and Lily, then at Evelyn. "Family?" she asked. Evelyn didn't hesitate. "Yes." "Good. Then they should hear this, too." Dr. Patel pulled up a chair. "Ms. Cross, your test results show severe exhaustion, dehydration, and dangerously low blood sugar. When's the last time you had a full night's sleep?" Evelyn looked away. "I sleep enough." 4 hours a night is not enough. Neither is skipping meals and running on coffee and adrenaline. The doctor's voice was kind but firm. "Your body is giving you a warning. If you don't start taking care of yourself, next time it won't be a warning. It'll be a heart attack or a stroke." Lily gasped. "You could die?" "No, sweetheart, I'm fine. That's not what the doctor said." Lily's voice trembled. "She said you're not taking care of yourself. Like when Daddy gets sick because he works too hard and forgets to eat lunch." Daniel winced. He'd thought he'd hidden those moments better. Dr. Patel looked at Lily with approval. "You're a smart girl, and you're right. Your dad and Miss Cross both need to take better care of themselves. Can you help me make sure they do that?" Lily nodded seriously, tears on her cheeks. "I can make them eat vegetables and go to bed on time." "Excellent. I'm putting you in charge." Dr. Patel stood, addressing Evelyn. "I'm keeping you overnight for observation. Tomorrow, Assuming your levels stabilize, you can go home. But Ms. Cross, I need you to understand something. You've been running on empty for a long time. Your body kept going because you forced it to, but it can't sustain that forever. You need to make changes, real changes. Sleep, food, exercise, and probably therapy to address whatever's driving this self-destructive pattern. After the doctor left, the room fell into heavy silence. Evelyn stared at her hands, her careful control finally cracking. I don't know how to stop, she said quietly. Working, I mean. It's what I've done for 7 years. It's how I survived losing them. And now I'm supposed to just… what? Take vacation days? Leave early? Trust that the company won't fall apart without me? Yes, Daniel said simply. That's exactly what you're supposed to do. You don't understand. I understand that my daughter just heard a doctor say you could die if you don't take care of yourself. I understand that you've been so busy making sure Lily and I are okay that you've completely neglected your own health. His voice softened. And I understand that you're terrified if you stop working yourself to death, you'll have to feel everything you've been running from for 7 years. Evelyn's face crumpled. I can't lose this. I can't lose you and Lily. You're the only good thing that's happened to me since… Then stop trying to lose yourself. Daniel moved closer to the bed, conscious of Lily watching them both with wide, worried eyes. You told me once that showing up is what matters. Well, you can't show up if you work yourself into a hospital bed. Or worse. He's right, Lily said, her voice very small. I already lost one, Mommy. I don't want to lose you too. The word hung in the air. Mommy. Not Ms. Cross or the night lady or any of the careful labels they'd used. Just the simple, devastating truth of what Evelyn had become to this child. Evelyn pulled Lily close, burying her face in her hair. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. I'll do better. I promise. You have to eat breakfast every day, Lily said, her voice muffled against Evelyn's shoulder. And sleep 8 hours, and not work on Saturdays because those are our days. Okay, yes, all of that. And you have to tell us when you're sad instead of working all night. Evelyn's breath hitched. That's harder, sweetheart. I know, but we're a family. Families help each other with hard things. Over Lily's head, Evelyn's eyes met Daniel's. In them, he saw fear and hope and something that might have been love, all tangled together in a way that felt both terrifying and right. We're a family, he agreed quietly, which means you don't carry everything alone anymore. They stayed at the hospital until visiting hours ended. Lily curled up on the bed beside Evelyn while Daniel sat in the chair nearby, all of them existing in the strange bubble of hospital time where the outside world felt very far away. Eventually, a nurse came to check Evelyn's vitals and gently suggested that the little one needed to go home and get proper sleep. I don't want to leave, Lily protested, but her yawns betrayed her. I'll be here in the morning, Evelyn promised. First thing, and then I'll come home with you for a while, okay? The doctor says I need to rest, and I can't think of a better place to rest than with my family. The word came easily now, family. Not a replacement for what was lost, but something new built from the pieces. That night, after Daniel got Lily to bed, he sat in their small living room thinking about how quickly everything could change. 3 months ago, they'd been strangers connected only by late-night basement encounters. Now Evelyn was in a hospital bed, listed as his emergency contact, integrated so thoroughly into their lives that the thought of losing her felt unbearable. His phone buzzed, a text from Rachel. Ms. Cross wanted you to know her numbers are stabilizing. Dr. Patel says she can go home in the morning. I'm arranging for home nursing care, but she's insisting she doesn't need it. Daniel typed back, tell her she's staying with us. She can rest at our place where Lily can keep an eye on her. The response came from Evelyn's own number. Your apartment is too small. I'll be fine at mine. Daniel called her directly. You're staying with us. We'll make it work. Daniel, you have 1 bedroom. Where exactly would I sleep? You can have my room. I'll take the couch. Lily can share with you if she wants. You know she will. And before you argue, remember what you told me about family, helping each other with hard things? A long silence. Then, quietly, thank you. The next morning, Daniel picked Evelyn up from the hospital with Lily bouncing excitedly in the back seat. Dr. Patel had released her with strict instructions. rest, regular meals, no work for at least a week. Evelyn had agreed to everything with the slightly dazed expression of someone who just had their entire worldview shifted. "Ms. Cross, I made you a schedule," Lily announced as they drove home. "Daddy helped. You have to eat breakfast at 8, lunch at 12, dinner at 6, and you have to sleep from 9 p.m. to 7 a.m. That's 10 hours, which is even better than 8. That's very thorough, sweetheart. Daddy says you're bad at taking care of yourself, so we have to do it for you. Like how I helped Daddy remember to take his vitamins." Evelyn looked at Daniel, something warm and vulnerable in her expression. "You two have really thought this through." "We take care of our family," Daniel said simply. Their apartment had never felt smaller than when Evelyn Cross walked through the door. She looked around the cramped space, the worn couch, the tiny kitchen, the single bedroom barely big enough for Lily's bed and Daniel's, and Daniel braced himself for judgment. Instead, she smiled. "It's perfect." "It's a dump," Daniel said honestly. "But it's home." "Exactly." Evelyn set down her overnight bag, which Rachel had packed and delivered. "I've lived in a penthouse that felt like a mausoleum for 7 years. This is the first place that's felt like a home in longer than I can remember." Lily grabbed Evelyn's hand, tugging her toward the bedroom. "Come see. Daddy put clean sheets on his bed for you, and I put Hope on your pillow to keep you company if you get lonely." That first day established a routine that would define the next week. Evelyn slept late, unused to letting herself rest, and woke to find Lily sitting cross-legged on the floor beside the bed, coloring quietly. They ate breakfast together, actual breakfast, not just coffee, while Daniel got ready for work. He'd taken the week off from supervisor duties, using his accumulated vacation days, telling Janet and HR that he had a family emergency, which was true in its way. The days fell into a gentle rhythm. Mornings were slow. Evelyn still exhausted from months of running herself into the ground. Daniel and Lily moving quietly around the apartment. Afternoons, they'd watch movies or read books, or simply sit together on the couch, Lily wedged between the two adults she loved most. Evenings, Daniel cooked while Evelyn and Lily set the table, and they ate dinner like a real family, talking about nothing and everything. On the third day, Evelyn's phone rang incessantly until she finally turned it off entirely. "The board is panicking," she said, looking at the screen showing 47 missed calls. "Rachel's fielding everything, but there are decisions that need to be made." "Can they wait a week?" Daniel asked. "Probably. The company's been running for 15 years. It can survive 7 days without me." "Then let it." He took the phone from her hands and set it on the kitchen counter, face down. "The world doesn't end because Evelyn Cross takes a vacation. It feels like it might. That's the exhaustion talking, and the control issues." He softened the words with a smile. "But you're learning to let go, right? To trust that everything won't fall apart without you?" "I'm trying." "Good. That's all we're asking. Just try." On the fourth day, Lily had what she called an important talk with Evelyn. She climbed onto the bed where Evelyn was reading, her expression very serious. "I need to tell you something," Lily began, "and you have to listen all the way to the end before you say anything." Evelyn set down her book. "Okay, I'm listening." "I know you're not my real mommy. I know my real mommy was named Sarah, and she died when I was little and she's in heaven now. I know that." Lily took a deep breath. "But you do mommy things. You tie my shoes and read me stories and worry about if I'm eating vegetables. You come to my school things and you know what books I like, and you always remember to bring hope when we go places. And when I'm scared, you make me feel safe. Just like a mommy." Evelyn's eyes filled with tears. "So I was thinking," Lily continued, "maybe you could be my other mommy. Not instead of my first mommy, but in addition to. Because people can have more than one person who loves them like a mommy, right? Daddy loves me like a daddy, but so did my grandpa before he died. So why can't I have two mommies, even if one of them is in heaven?" "Lily," Evelyn's voice broke. "I'm not finished. You said I had to listen all the way to the end, remember?" Lily's lip trembled, but she kept going. "I love you, like a mommy, and I know you love me too because you told me, and I know you miss Sophie and I'm not trying to replace her. But maybe I could be your daughter too. Your earth daughter, since Sophie is your heaven daughter. Would that be okay?" Evelyn pulled Lily into her arms, tears streaming down her face. It would be more than okay, sweetheart. It would be the greatest honor of my life. So I can call you Mommy? For real? If you want to, but only if you're sure. Lily pulled back, studying Evelyn's face. I'm sure, are you? I've never been more sure of anything. Good. Lily threw her arms around Evelyn's neck. I love you, Mommy. Daniel stood in the doorway, witnessing this moment, and felt something fundamental shift in his understanding of family. It wasn't about blood or biology or the conventional structures society prescribed. It was about choosing each other, showing up every day, building something real from the broken pieces of what came before. That evening, after Lily was asleep, Daniel and Evelyn sat together on the couch in the darkened living room. The apartment was quiet except for the distant sounds of the city and Lily's soft breathing from the bedroom. I meant what I said, Evelyn said quietly, about it being an honor. But Daniel, I need you to understand what you're giving me. I'm not just someone who shows up on Saturdays anymore. Lily just made me her mother. She struggled for words. That's everything. I know. Do you? Because this means legal custody eventually, if you'll let me pursue it. It means she'd be mine if anything happened to you. It means I'm responsible for her happiness, her safety, her entire life. I know, Daniel repeated, and I trust you with all of that. Why? The question was raw, vulnerable. Why would you trust someone like me, someone who collapsed from overwork, who's barely holding herself together, with your daughter? Because you show up, Daniel said simply. Even when it's hard, even when you're exhausted, even when every instinct tells you to run, you show up. That's what matters. Not perfection, not having all the answers, just showing up and doing the work. Evelyn was quiet for a long moment. I'm going to make changes, real ones. I'm going to step back from day-to-day operations at Cross Industries, hire a COO to handle things I don't need to control. I'm going to actually take weekends off. I'm going to go to therapy. She looked at him. Because Lily deserves someone who's healthy and present, not someone who's running from ghosts. And you deserve that too. Maybe. I'm starting to believe that might be true. She leaned her head on his shoulder, a gesture that had become natural over these past days. Thank you, Daniel, for letting me be part of this. For trusting me with Lily, for seeing past the CEO to the person underneath. Thank you for kneeling down when she fell, for tying her shoes, for showing up in a basement at 2 a.m. and finding something worth staying for. They sat in comfortable silence, two broken people who'd found wholeness in each other, listening to the breathing of the child who'd brought them together. The rest of the week passed in a gentle blur. Evelyn's color returned, the shadows under her eyes faded, and slowly she began to look less like someone who'd been running on empty and more like someone who'd found a reason to rest. On the 7th day, Dr. Patel came for a follow-up house call and pronounced Evelyn much improved. Keep doing whatever you're doing, she said, looking around the small apartment with approval. This is clearly good for you. After the doctor left, Evelyn's phone came back on, cautiously, with strict boundaries about when she'd respond to messages. Rachel had handled everything beautifully. The board had survived without daily input, and the company had not in fact collapsed. I could get used to this, Evelyn said, watching Lily color at the coffee table while Daniel made lunch. The quiet, the routine, being part of something ordinary. You're always welcome here, Daniel said, for as long as you want. That night, their last night before Evelyn was cleared to return to her own apartment, Lily had a request. Can we all sleep in the same room, like a sleepover? So they made a nest of blankets and pillows on the bedroom floor. Lily's bed too small for 3, Daniel's not much bigger. They lay there in the darkness, Lily between them, talking about nothing important until her breathing deepened into sleep. I don't want to go back to the penthouse, Evelyn whispered. It's going to feel so empty after this. Then don't go back, not permanently. Daniel propped himself up on one elbow, looking at her in the dim light from the street. Move in with us, for real. We'll find a bigger place, something with enough space for all 3 of us. Lily's already calling you Mommy. I'm her father. We're raising her together. Why not make it official? Daniel, people will talk. They already talk. Let them. I spent 3 months caring what people thought, trying to maintain professional distance, pretending we weren't already a family. I'm done with that. Lily deserves better. You deserve better. We all do. Evelyn was quiet for so long that Daniel thought she might say no. Then, in a voice barely above a whisper, "Are you sure?" "I've never been more sure of anything. This changes everything. Your life, your reputation, the way people see you at work." "Good, because my life needed changing. And my reputation as a single dad barely scraping by isn't exactly worth protecting." He reached across Lily's sleeping form to take Evelyn's hand. "We're already a family. We've been a family since that morning in the elevator when a 5-year-old girl recognized something real and said it out loud. This just makes it official." "What would Sarah think?" The question was tentative, careful. Daniel thought about his late wife. Her joy, her generosity, her ability to find happiness in ordinary moments. "I think she'd be glad Lily has someone else who loves her. I think she'd want us to build something new from the pieces, not spend the rest of our lives mourning what we lost." "And Sophie? And Michael?" Evelyn's voice broke. "Am I betraying them by being happy again?" "You're honoring them by living, by loving, by choosing to build instead of destroy yourself." Daniel squeezed her hand. "They'd want this for you. I know they would." In the darkness, Evelyn cried quietly, releasing 7 years of grief and guilt and the crushing weight of trying to survive alone. Daniel held her hand across Lily's sleeping form, and together they mourned what was lost while celebrating what they'd found. The next morning, Evelyn went home to her penthouse to pack. Not everything, just what mattered. And when she opened the closet she'd never touched, the one with Sophie's things preserved exactly as they'd been 7 years ago, she finally understood what needed to happen. She took out Sophie's favorite purple dress, the one she'd worn to her 4th birthday party. She held it to her face, breathing in the faint scent of laundry detergent and childhood, and then carefully folded it into a memory box along with photographs and small treasures. Not throwing away, that would never be right, but putting away gently, with love, making space for new memories while honoring the old. On the wall of her bedroom, Lily's drawing hung exactly where it had been since that first Sunday dinner. But now Evelyn added others, photographs from the museum, a crayon portrait Lily had drawn of my family, a certificate from Lily's kindergarten graduation that listed both Daniel and Evelyn as parents. Rachel found her there, standing in front of this gallery of ordinary moments, tears streaming down her face. "Are you okay?" Rachel asked gently. "I'm better than okay. I'm happy." Evelyn smiled through her tears. "For the first time in 7 years, I'm actually happy." Within 2 months, they'd found an apartment together. A 3-bedroom place in a good school district, close enough to cross industries that Daniel could still commute easily, but far enough from the corporate tower to feel like home. Evelyn paid the deposit and first month's rent, and before Daniel could protest, she'd established a joint account for household expenses. "We're partners in this," she said firmly. "Equal partners raising a child together. That means shared financial responsibility. You make 20 times what I do. And you've been raising Lily alone for 3 years, managing on a fraction of what you needed. Let me do this. Let me contribute to our home." Our home. The words settled into Daniel's chest like warmth. Moving day was chaos. Lily directing everyone with the authority of a 5-year-old general, Daniel coordinating with movers, Evelyn making decisions about furniture placement while simultaneously fielding work calls that she'd promised to keep brief. By evening, surrounded by boxes and exhausted, they collapsed together on the new couch. "This is really happening," Evelyn said wonderingly. "We're really doing this." "Having second thoughts?" Daniel asked. "Not even for a second." Lily climbed onto the couch between them, as she always did. "Do I have to pick which bedroom is mine? Can I sleep with you guys?" "You have your own room now, baby," Daniel said, "with actual space for all your toys and books. But I like sleeping near you." Lily's chin trembled. "What if I get lonely?" Evelyn pulled her close. "Then you come find us. Anytime, day or night. That's what families do." That first night in their new home, Daniel lay in bed in the master bedroom, his and Evelyn's room, a concept that still felt surreal, and listened to the sounds of his family settling in. Lily's footsteps padding down the hall, Evelyn's soft voice reading a bedtime story, The creak of the guest bed, where Lily had indeed ended up sleeping, wedged between both parents. His phone buzzed, a text from Marcus. Heard you moved in with the boss. You're either the bravest guy I know or the craziest. Daniel typed back, maybe both, but I'm also the happiest. The response came quickly. Then I'm happy for you, Brooks. You deserve it. And maybe, Daniel thought, they all did. Lily deserved a full family after losing her mother too young. Evelyn deserved a second chance at the joy she'd thought was gone forever, and he deserved to build something new without feeling guilty about moving forward. The weeks that followed were an adjustment, learning to share space, to coordinate schedules, to make decisions together as partners rather than as separate individuals. There were disagreements about discipline, about schedules, about how much work Evelyn brought home despite her promises. But they talked through everything, committed to honesty and communication even when it was uncomfortable. At work, Daniel stopped trying to hide their relationship. When people asked, he told the truth. He was raising Lily with Evelyn Cross. They were partners and co-parents. And yes, it was unconventional, but it worked. Some people judged. Others congratulated him. Most just accepted it as one more example of the many ways families could be built. And Evelyn kept her promises. She hired a COO, delegated responsibilities, started leaving the office at reasonable hours. She went to therapy twice a week, working through 7 years of unprocessed grief with a patience she'd never shown herself before. She learned to sleep 8 hours, to eat regular meals, to be present rather than productive. 6 months after they moved in together on a Saturday afternoon at the park, Lily was playing soccer with other kids while Daniel and Evelyn watched from the sidelines. I never thought I'd have this again, Evelyn said quietly. The mundane joy of watching a kid play soccer, the anxiety about scraped knees and hurt feelings, the exhaustion of bedtime battles and morning rushes. I thought that part of my life was over. And now? Now I understand that life doesn't end when tragedy strikes. It just changes shape. And sometimes, if you're very lucky and very brave, you get to build something new from the broken pieces. Lily scored a goal, her first ever, and turned to the sidelines with a face full of pure joy, both hands raised in triumph. Daniel and Evelyn jumped to their feet cheering, and Lily ran toward them. Did you see? Did you see? I scored! We saw, baby girl, Daniel said, scooping her up. We saw everything. I'm so proud of you, Evelyn added, and Lily threw her arms around both of them, linking them together in a three-way hug that felt like everything good and right in the world. That evening, after dinner and bath time and the usual bedtime negotiations, Lily made an announcement. I want to show you something. She ran to her room and came back with her art supplies. I made a new picture. It's important. She spread the paper on the coffee table. It showed 3 figures holding hands, a man, a woman, and a child. Above them, drawn in lighter colors, were 2 more figures, a woman with angel wings and a smaller figure, also with wings, both smiling down at the family below. That's Mommy Sarah and Sophie, Lily explained, pointing at the angels. And that's us, Daddy and Mommy Evelyn and me. I wanted to show that we're all connected, the ones in heaven and the ones on earth. That's what family is, right? People who love each other even when they can't be together anymore? Daniel's throat closed. Beside him, Evelyn pressed a hand to her mouth, tears streaming down her face. That's exactly what family is, sweetheart, Evelyn managed. That's the most beautiful thing I've ever seen. Can we keep it? On the wall where everyone can see? Yes, absolutely yes. They hung the picture in the living room right where everyone who entered could see it. A reminder that love didn't end with death, that families could be built from loss, that healing didn't mean forgetting. It meant carrying the past with honor, while building the future with hope. 1 year after that morning in the elevator when a 5-year-old girl had called a billionaire CEO Mommy, Daniel sat in the same office where he'd first explained why. But this time, he wasn't alone. Evelyn sat beside him, and Lily was at school, living her best 6-year-old life. The guardianship papers are ready for final signature, Evelyn's lawyer said via video conference. Once these are filed, Evelyn Cross will have full legal guardianship rights should anything happen to Mr. Brooks. Additionally, I've prepared the paperwork for Ms. Cross to formally adopt Lily, if that's something you'd both like to pursue. Daniel and Evelyn looked at each other. They discussed this late at night when Lily was asleep and they could talk honestly about their hopes and fears. "I want to," Evelyn said quietly. "I want to be her mother legally, not just in practice, but only if you're comfortable with it." "I'm comfortable with it. More than comfortable. Sarah would want Lily to have two parents who love her. And you do. You love her fiercely and completely." "Then yes," Evelyn told the lawyer. "Let's proceed with the adoption papers." 6 months later, on a Tuesday afternoon in family court, Evelyn Cross legally became Lily Brooks's mother. The ceremony was small, just the three of them, Rachel as a witness, and the judge who smiled warmly as Lily explained that she already had two mommies, one in heaven and one on earth, and now the earth one was official. Walking out of the courthouse, Lily held both their hands, swinging between them. "Am I Lily Cross now?" she asked. "You can be whatever you want," Evelyn said. "Lily Brooks, Lily Cross, Lily Brooks Cross. It's your choice." Lily thought about this seriously. "I want to be Lily Brooks Cross because I'm both. I'm Daddy's daughter from when he and Mommy Sarah made me, and I'm your daughter because you chose me. So I should have both names." "That's perfect, sweetheart," Daniel said, his voice thick with emotion. That night, the three of them celebrated with ice cream, strawberry, Sophie's favorite, and talked about everything and nothing. And when Lily finally fell asleep, worn out from excitement, Daniel and Evelyn sat together in the living room looking at the adoption certificate that made official what had been true for months. "I keep thinking about that morning in the elevator," Evelyn said. "How terrified I was, how certain I was that everything was going to fall apart. And instead everything fell together in the strangest, most perfect way." She looked at the picture Lily had drawn, still hanging on the wall. "I spent 7 years trying to outrun grief. Walking empty corridors at 2 a.m, working myself to death, convinced that if I stopped moving, I'd collapse. And then a little girl sleeping in a basement saw something in me I thought was dead, and she was right." What did she see? Someone who still knew how to love, someone who could still show up, someone who could still be a mother, if given the chance. Evelyn leaned against Daniel, and he put his arm around her. "I didn't save you and Lily. You saved me." "I think we saved each other. Maybe that's what families do. Save each other from loneliness, from despair, from the belief that broken things can't be put back together." She laced her fingers through his. "We're not what we were before. We're something new, something better. Something built from love instead of loss." "Exactly." 2 years after that first elevator encounter, Lily Brooks Cross stood in front of her second-grade class for show and tell. She held up the picture she'd drawn, the one with the angels above and the family below. "This is my family," she announced confidently. "I have a daddy and two mommies. One of my mommies is in heaven with my other mommy's daughter, and they're friends there, and my other mommy is here with me and daddy. Some people think it's weird that I have two mommies, but I think it's lucky, because it means I have lots of people who love me." Her teacher, Mrs. Rodriguez, smiled. "That's a beautiful way to think about family, Lily. And you're right. Having people who love you is very lucky indeed." That evening, when Daniel and Evelyn picked Lily up from school, she recounted the entire show and tell experience, talking a mile a minute about how everyone loved her picture, and Tommy Martinez said his family was weird too because he had 3 dads, which made Lily feel less alone in having a non-traditional family. "Families are just people who love each other," Lily concluded wisely. "It doesn't matter how many or who or why, just that they show up and stay." Later, after bedtime routines and goodnight kisses, Daniel and Evelyn stood in Lily's doorway watching her sleep. Hope the bear was tucked under one arm, a new stuffed elephant, a gift from her second-grade teacher, under the other. "She's amazing," Evelyn whispered. "How did we get so lucky?" "I don't think it was luck. I think it was a little girl who saw past titles and power and corporate hierarchy to the person underneath. A person who needed saving just as much as we did. And we all saved each other." "Yeah, we did." They closed Lily's door softly and walked hand in hand to their own room. Outside, the city lights glittered against the dark sky. Somewhere in the Cross Industries Tower, the night shift was starting their rounds. cleaning empty offices and walking quiet corridors. But Evelyn wasn't there. She was home, with her family, choosing presence over productivity, love over loneliness, healing over hiding. And in the morning, she would wake up to the sound of Lily singing off-key in the shower and Daniel making breakfast in the kitchen. She would eat with her family, kiss her daughter goodbye at the bus stop, and go to work knowing she had something to come home to. Not an empty penthouse or sterile corridors, but a home full of noise and love and the beautiful chaos of ordinary life. It wasn't the life she'd planned. It wasn't the family she'd lost. But it was real and precious, and worth every moment of the journey that had led her here, from the top floor of a glass tower to a basement storage room to this small, perfect moment of happiness. Lily had been right all along. People needed someone to make them less sad, someone to kneel down and tie their shoes, someone to show up again and again, even when it was hard, someone to call family. And for three people who'd started as strangers connected by grief and circumstance, that's exactly what they'd become. Not perfect, not conventional, but absolutely, undeniably family. And that, more than any corporate success or financial security or social approval, was everything.